What's up, guys? Welcome to the new channel, guys. Those of you guys who are coming in from Duke the Don, shout out to you guys. I appreciate you guys being here. Today, we're going to have a very, very important stream because we're going to be talking about a lot of different topics, but a lot of them have a central theme, right? There's the accent coming out over here, but they all have a central theme, and we're going to be talking about basically what's going on out there in the world, right? And why it's very important for a lot of the guys who are paying attention to this stuff. If you're looking for job opportunities or future potential job security with the impending economical calamity we're about to face right now, at least some countries are facing, why it's important for us to start looking at the tech field for potential solutions to what's going on right now. Not only in addition to the war that's going on that we're facing, but also for a lot of long-term and secure career growth. So what is happening right now in the news? Okay, for those of you guys who don't know, there's been a bunch of incremental actions that have been taken by the foreign powers we're all hating on right now, which is Russia, right? We're all trying to figure out what's going to happen, what's the next move we're going to make, because if you guys have not been paying attention, the pipeline Nord Stream 1, the first one got shut down, right? It was officially shut down. Russia has closed off all freaking access to Europe, denying them access to oil, right? So that's what's going on. So Russia has taken that final step, and now what Europe is looking at is a very cold winter, because now they have to figure out where and how they're going to figure out how they're going to get their energy from, right? So we're seeing slow escalations, and for a while we're actually right now in the middle of it, where we're experiencing a kind of odd calm, right? And the storm is just ramping up, right? Especially with what the move that Russia just made, especially with the finalization of the regions that they were basically supporting, the Donbass regions, right? So those breakaway regions that were originally Ukraine, but they were fighting within Ukraine to become part of Russia. They just had the referendum, right? And now they're officially Russian. So what happens if Ukraine were to attack those regions that were originally Ukraine and now formerly Russians? Well, here's the thing. Putin said if anyone attacks any one of these regions, they will take it as a full-on attack, and they're going balls to the wall, right? So we're seeing slow and steady escalations towards World War III. If you guys don't even really understand, I think personally it's already started. It's just that we haven't hit the big one yet, okay? And the big one is yet to come. But also, what you guys have to understand is what decides the next landscape and what World War III is going to look like, right? Because a lot of people think it's going to be just like what we experienced with the crazy German guy with the short mustache, back in World War II. Nope. It's not going to be a case. Matter of fact, the next war is actually going to be, the landscape is going to look a little bit different. It's going to be a lot more digital. Matter of fact, it's actually started. It started a while back, way before even some of y'all were born, with the propaganda tools and the certain influence of culture that certain countries have in this country right now, and in other parts of the world too as well. So it's the cyber warfare, the what do you call it, the social engineering. It's been ongoing for a very long time, and now we're getting to the point where it is heating ahead. Okay, so now we're gonna have a conversation. I'm gonna bring a guest on. We're gonna talk about first of all, we're going to talk about the tech industry, because I promised that we're gonna talk about it, have a deep discussion. We're both he's actually gonna allude on his background. We're gonna talk about it, right? And then we're also, because he doesn't mind getting to the war and the theories and stuff like that. So we're actually gonna dive deep on this episode, because then we're gonna have a lot of well-rounded experience talking about this and why the next world war landscape is gonna it's gonna look digital, and how a lot of you guys can find opportunity in the upcoming war, especially when the economy is not going to be looking too good. So N1C Fury, welcome to the stream. Shout out to you.
Oh, I am muted. How are you doing? How you doing, everyone?
Good, man. Doing good. Thank you for being here, man.
Just so we get clear, it's Nick Fury, and it's not
Nick
like it's
Fury.
a secret. Yeah, it's not like some secret thing. I'm pretty sure if you dox me, you're going to find my legal name and all that good stuff. But it's not that interesting. Yeah, a lot to talk about there. I can talk about my background in tech, just some things I've observed. I will give a caveat with my background in tech and any things we talk about that I am one person, and with my own experiences, specifically too, I live in Southern California. So as you're asking, as want to get more, learn more about this field and work with people, keep those things in mind of who you're getting your information from, where, and different things. So, for instance, if you live in, say, Texas, you're going to know a lot more about the oil industry and manufacturing and things like that, and all these different things. If you're in, depending on what part of the country you're in and what you're doing in tech, could change your trajectory drastically. And there's a lot of good paths, especially if you're somebody that has a unique set of skills that most people don't have, or do a job you don't want to do.
Hmm.
But I'll say I've worked in manufacturing environments, hospital, and a few other places, as well as some government contracts. So I can speak to those things and just a lot of general tech and career development stuff as well. As far as the outside of tech stuff, and this is where I run into and kind of how I picked up with all this manosphere content and stuff is, unlike a lot of people that grew up in this, that are dealing with all the dating and all that stuff, I'm coming from the polar opposite. So when you're hearing stuff about like, oh well, got to work on this and chasing girls instead of money, like I did the opposite. And
Yeah,
there's ups and downs to that. I want to give that clear because like a lot of people say they want to make six figures in tech and all this stuff. There is a sacrifice that comes with that.
there is. It's true.
You know this, like if you have the word engineer in your title, there's a lot of on-call work you're doing. There's a lot of,
Meetings,
oh yeah, oh for
meetings.
sure.
That's usually
Like,
my day.
and I hit
Meetings.
this, yeah, and I hit this conclusion, right? Like when a lot of women will say stuff like six figure this and that, or they want a doctor. No, let's be clear, and they're perfectly okay to demand these things. Like they don't want the doctor, they want the doctor's salary. Because let's think about this for people in those categories that make all this money and stuff. They're not trust fund babies.
Mm-mm.
They put a lot of work in. A lot of those people, like, I can tell you, like, in just for my okay so tech salary, there are a lot of 50, 60, 80-hour weeks I've worked. When a lot of you younger guys are hitting the clubs Friday, Saturday night, there's times where I was working and doing maintenance or some kind of solving a
Mm.
problem for a company and getting off from work Saturday morning at 5 a.m. or 7 a.m. and then going back to work Monday.
Mhm.
There's a lot of, and there's also balance in that too. Like by society standards, by a lot of your standards, I've done a lot of the right things. Grind. That being said, there is a part where I have to learn myself is improving the whole like life balance part of work. Work career part's easy for me.
Mhm.
And I can also say this because I have the luxury of like not having kids and starting off socially awkward. So I missed a lot of those pitfalls that you guys talk about on a constant basis. But as far as tech, like I can tell you, I'll start with background. So back when I first left high school, I'm one of those weird kids that wanted to get into computer science at a very early age and
Mm.
tech and stuff. Like I was 8 years old taking things apart and wanting to learn how like, oh wait, this Game Boy has this processor and microchip on. Oh, that's neat. I have a screw. There's a VCR. I want to see how it works. I'd start taking stuff apart. Which if you're a parent and you're noticing this in these kids, it can be kind of challenging because they may break your stuff at some point. But that is where a lot of the stuff began, like little stuff like figuring out transformers without looking at the instructions or video games. A lot of these things kind of like built the building blocks for how I got in this field, where it's not necessarily the most realistic saying something like follow your heart and the money will follow. If your interest in heart is in STEM, something STEM related, and you follow that, it's going to work out for you.
Yeah.
So fast forward into high school, I decided to go to college at small college, South Carolina, and my interest was computer science. I was like, if not computer science, I would have gone electrical engineering. As a kid, I kind of knew like, everybody wants to be Superman. I want to be Tony Stark. Like
There you
engineer
go.
was something that was in mind. Like I'm very left brained. Math was the only class I was really attentive in and like really enjoyed. The other stuff, if I did good, great. If not, nah. But math and science were my two favorite subjects, and
Yeah.
that's if you honestly, if people were getting their kids into that stuff at an early age, it'd solve a lot of problems. Because even if you don't work in the field, you start thinking things mathematically and all this stuff. And
It'll help with a lot of finances too, because a lot of people they
oh
make
yeah,
horrible
oh
budgeting
yeah,
decisions, and it really
yeah,
doesn't take long to like just to do the math and say, okay, what is my income, what is my expenses, and it looks like my
yeah,
expenses outdo my income, so there's going to be a lot of issues
yeah.
there. So yeah,
Or
go ahead.
even like some other people we know in this in this space that had a background with around people that knew how to play chess, and we know who I'm talking about. I
Yeah,
don't, I
yeah.
don't have a problem with the guy. I understand where he's coming from. Like when you are around people that are playing chess, you start thinking everything in your life is a couple of moves ahead. I do this. What if this happens? Here, you're anticipating things. Now, to be fair, this is once again I will mention often in this conversation. It's a balancing act because in my case, I run the opposite problem where I'm thinking of every move possible instead of just doing. So tech wise stuff that works great in tech world. Approaching people in the dating world and interacting with people, you sometimes got to just shoot
Yeah,
from the hip.
and that's the thing, and there's but here's the thing, because where you're coming from, I came from the exact opposite, right? Because I
Yeah.
came from the sales background, and then it's just literally sensing the water, and you can sense that if you're paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to the economy, you're paying attention to the job market, and COVID is really one of the big tells, right?
Yeah.
Hey, which one's going up and which one's not going to go up? Which job is going to be viable in the future? Which one's
Yep.
not? I knew that hey, selling cars for long is not going to work out, so maybe I should
Yeah.
start tailoring my skills, getting certain certifications to get out of that
Mm-hmm.
and break into new industries, especially industries that are now noticing that it's going to be more important, especially with the new landscape of what we're going to be experiencing in the next
For
upcoming months. And
sure.
this is what I don't even talk about in the manosphere space, because I kind of leave that stuff to where I just clown people out. But like a lot of
Yeah. Yeah.
times,
Yeah.
what these guys should be talking about is the severity of what we're going to be experiencing right now. Like the guys in Europe, they're going to be facing a very, very, very cold winter because gas is going up. The UK
Yep.
is on the verge of civil unrest. God damn, the Queen died not what weeks ago, barely a month
Yeah.
ago, and
About
now
a month.
the country's on the verge of collapse. Why? Because they have some shit that they have to figure out in
Yeah.
terms of keeping things together, because a lot of these countries have shot themselves in the foot with these devastating sanction wars, and a lot of it,
Mm-hmm.
right, has a lot to do with kind of what we're talking about here and the potential opportunities you're going to find. So we're going to take this a little bit into that category for a second. Let me get your opinion right now. What are your thoughts on this whole, because we're going to put, if you don't mind, I want to react to a video, right? Because
Yeah.
this is just and the video is going to be on the interesting developments that have been coming out, right? So
Mm-hmm.
one thing that Russia is known for is their intelligence operations, especially the intelligence apparatus they've built in multiple countries, but particularly in the United States. I think Russia and China are the two biggest. Like, if you want to talk about infiltration into the United States, they're very good at it. Like,
Yeah.
Russia has been good at it for a very long time,
They've been
right?
probably doing
So
it for the last few decades.
U.S. is, I mean, a lot of, I mean, KGB, we picked up a lot of the stuff from them. So
Yep.
so now what we're trying to see is that the kind of landscape of war that we're seeing, it's almost, we've actually, I would say, throughout 2016, when we got the election of Trump, all the way to what we're seeing, the escalation we're seeing now, I would say that period was more of like a Cold War, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
we had a lot of cyber shit go on, a lot of Twitter accounts of prominent people during that time were being hacked, right? We know it's like what Elon Musk's account got hacked. I would think Obama was one of it, like a bunch of prominent people.
Yeah.
What data information got taken? I don't know, right? There were
Mm.
certain situations where even during that time, I don't know if that was when Equifax got hacked or one of those.
Equifax was a little bit further back.
A little further back. Okay, so that
Yeah,
might have
because
been further back.
that happened like, if I'm correct, if I had to get the dates, but I'm
Okay,
remembering big hacks like Equifax and Target happened years before Trump was
okay,
elected.
okay.
And to be honest, the thing with a lot of that stuff is it happens. It's going to happen regardless of political climate and all those other things. There are some attacks that will increase based on international affairs, but a lot of the stuff happens for the motives behind this stuff are usually money, political something or other. It's not always just like, okay, Trump's in office, these things happen. As I said, like a lot of this stuff happens well in advance. So when a company gets breached, it's not like the breach happened that moment. Those attackers were in there close to 300 days before. There's plenty of
Yep,
statistics on this.
long
Like if you
time
look at most
ago.
breach reports, most breach statistics say like it's like close to 300 days before a company even discovers it, like Equifax, for instance.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of other factors to that too with how those things happen. So you have a company that's pressed for doing software updates. You have a lot of different. There's a lot of other problems that are happening in process. And what happens in the case of the political stuff is just being opportunistic at certain times, being aware of certain things that are vulnerable. I mean, we could go in. I am no expert on industrial control systems and the infrastructure. That's a whole other rabbit hole.
Yeah,
But
that's crazy.
I'm pretty convinced, based on some of the things I've seen in environments I've worked in throughout my years in tech
They're in
and
there.
in IT. It's not just in there, but like these systems are susceptible. And to be fair, it works both ways. Like it's not like we're just the United States is this innocent bystander and everybody's hitting us. I'm pretty
Yeah.
certain it's
We
everybody,
have
and that's
we have
kind of
our CIA apparatus has front companies that actually I think there's one that's embedded in one of these chip manufacturers too.
yeah,
Or like we have CIA has investment front companies that pretend to be like just normal firms that sprout out of nowhere
right.
with these
Like
basic cat names, and their whole goal is to buy up new technology to further their intelligence apparatus.
right, and the thing that you run into is like a lot of the as vulnerable as we are, it's not like we're the only ones vulnerable. And that's kind of a weird thing that keeps us all in check to some degree. Like, okay, yeah, we know our power infrastructure is a shit show, but theirs
Yeah.
is too. And it's like, okay, go ahead, try me, try me, try me. It's like everybody's just like pumping up their chest, and you get a lot of saber rattling during all this stuff. So you get one country wanting to flex on another one, and I'm definitely not an expert in any geopolitical affairs. A lot of what I advise people, and I said this over the years, whether it was Obama or Trump in office or Bush or whoever,
Mhm.
is I kind of like I kind of get you want to get to a point where you're not dependent on a political figure being in office to make you happy. Because if
I
that's the
think I
case,
think we're I think we're past that point.
yeah, you're
Wouldn't you
literally
agree?
flipping a coin like, oh,
If people can say someone like Trump can give them depression, and listen, I'm no
yeah,
Trump fan, or I don't
me
support
either.
the guy,
Yeah,
whatever it is. Like I support some of the stuff he did for Black folks, but everything else, I think he was just a clown in office. I just
yeah.
think that if people who looked at that and made their whole lives, some people destroyed their relationships
Oh
over it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
and
there's something wrong with you.
that is exactly what I was getting at. Like, I don't remember what Floyd Mayweather said exactly when this back when Trump was early in office about kind of keeping your head down and focusing on stuff like. And my point being, and just going back, and this kind of like it really hit me with COVID when I noticed all the stuff. It's like, okay, all this stuff out of here is well out of my control, and this is something I'm going to advise to people listening. Like, here you go. You got all this worldwide stuff going on out of your control. You got stuff in your own life that you probably have a lot more control over that you should be handling than all the other stuff.
Here's
And
the
then,
thing, though. Here's the
mm,
thing, though. I also think that, and this is why it's very important that's going to be difficult because part of the even if we go back to the whole Trump thing, part of it too were a lot of these countries. Let's be real, a lot of them have these social media profiles or these proxy profiles that they
yeah,
create that generate news to basically influence the behavior of a
yep,
lot of Americans. Matter of fact, I think part of the reason a lot of Americans right now are radicalized is because of certain influences by outside parties. So when we
yeah,
talk about the digital warfare that's been going on, I think when we talk, I think 2016 was the real ramp up of everything, where you start to see where these countries literally with massive bot farms and just like all over the place with servers all over just being able to create these accounts to basically pretty much manufacture a reality that isn't so, right? And you know what, the other thing that I realized is they use situations like what do you call it, Google,
mm,
right? Because when you mentioned earlier in the stream where even if you go on a search engine for Google, if you search up something like, let's say in Texas, right? If I search on a certain phrase based off of what the political leanings are, you almost get a certain kind of search result versus if I was in a blue blue type state, right?
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
even their algorithms are even wired to give feed you informations by region. So I'm not saying that was all Google in itself,
Mhm.
but that's part of the mental warfare, the mental conditioning that we see going on. Even when we go into the movies, the media right now. We know Hollywood is shit. Hollywood is pumping out horrible movies that only pertain to one specific agenda. But realistically, who are they trying to pretty much cater to? It's not
Yeah.
US, because
No.
US isn't paying the billions of dollars for these cinemas. It's China, right? So even
Yeah.
the NBA, you want to talk about sports, it's China. So these are all countries that have a vested interest in weakening our internal infrastructure
Mhm.
to the point where, hey, maybe it's useful to have someone like Biden in office, someone that's almost basically an empty husk that can
Yeah.
be moved around however we see fit, because they already have people bought and paid for, both on the right and the left.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's one big shell game. That's one thing I learned, and going back to some of my background, like after the whole college thing didn't work out the first year, I joined the military, and I
Yes,
only did 4 years
Cambridge
in the Navy.
Analytica. Sorry about that, but he's got the point.
Yeah,
Mecca, thank you.
yeah. The thing when I know the one, and I only did 4 years in. I wasn't like an operator or anything. I just fixed computers on a ship. But the one thing I learned, because of I was on an aircraft carrier, you get a lot of like senators and high-ranking politicians showing up. And the one thing I learned from my experience in the military is like it's this big shell game where like I said this, just because someone has a D next to their name does not mean they're anti-war. Just because they have an R next to their name does not mean they support the troops. I can go on a whole rant on supporting the whole support the troops thing and this like virtue signaling that a lot of people do, specifically because I served before 9/11 and saw the changes overnight with how military people were received in military towns.
Right.
And you get a lot of that stuff. And, with a lot of stuff with like defense contractors, and it's this running joke where you'd see like, somebody, and I can't say it's factual, but you see this thing where so and so is about to retire from the military. They have some kind of rank and pull. They sign contracts for something. They write a job rec for something fitting them, and then 2 days later they come back to that same office in the same job, but they're in civilian clothes.
Mm-hmm.
I've literally seen it. I did a
They
couple of
call it the
contracts.
revolving door. It's a
Yeah,
revolving door.
yeah,
It's a thing that's been a bane in the U.S. politics for a long
yeah.
time, because when they talk about corruption, there's the quid pro quo right in front of you, right?
Right.
They sign something, right? In the past presidents, even I don't know, because we're using a Texas example, so I'm going to go with the Bushes, right? The
Oh
Bushes.
yeah,
Big defense, bro. The defense contract, the money. It's like, hey,
bruh.
brother, hey, thank you for Iraq and Afghanistan, brothers.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the thank you they got, because you made those contractors so much money.
yeah.
Raytheon,
Oh
Boeing, all
yeah,
these. Oh my God, they were making
yeah.
money. The Bushes, right? So, and then what happened? These guys got out of office, and all of a sudden they got high level positions on these
Yep.
defense contracting companies. So it's a big problem, but it's like part of the programming, where a lot of times it's like, hey, wait a minute, no, this is clean. Everything you see here is clean. There's nothing wrong with
Yep.
this. Yeah, I know he just passed a bill that definitely gives us
Yeah.
more money, but and now he's somehow on our board making. I mean,
Yeah.
Hunter Biden, what was the Chinese government paying him for? He was on a board
Yeah.
for something, but he
Yeah.
wasn't really doing nothing,
Or
right?
not to mention all the different the vaccines and stuff from Pfizer and all that stuff. Somebody was in that back room like, hey, I got this vaccine here, right? Can you get us our name on the contract? Or electric cars, for instance. Oh, we want the government to have all electric cars. Gee, I wonder which company can do that. So what I'm getting at is like, when it comes to war stuff, Republicans and stuff have their group of people, and to be honest, some Democrats are shaking hands with like
A
defense
lot of
contractors.
a lot of bulldog
Yeah,
Democrats, man. Yeah,
and
they like
conversely,
that
like
money.
with other industries, Democrats kind of do the same thing with like pharmaceutical and stuff. And it's not that I said this many times, like I trust the science, but I also trust scientists can be bought.
Oh, they're all
If we
yeah. I would say so. I would say they're all, but like I would say like yeah, a good amount of scientists, their opinions would be or can be swayed, because
yeah,
it's one of those things like they're bought right off by these think tanks, and
mhm,
they parade them on here to spew certain things. I mean, Monsanto is notorious for doing this.
yeah, like
They'll literally put think tanks in front of you to convince you that their products is not
yeah,
toxic at all,
like
right?
if we go back to what was it, the 70s, when the sugar industry wanted to pay the scientists or whoever,
Yeah.
I don't want to say scientist in one bucket, but like whichever FDA authorities deem certain things to be healthier than others. So back in the 70s, all of a sudden sugar's healthier than fats. And
all of a sudden drinking cow milk is somehow what humans are supposed to be doing, right? And
right.
it's an excellent source of vitamin D, but why do we actually have to drink cow milk though?
Right.
Do we have to? It doesn't make any sense, right? But
why not
now
goat
the milk
Why not?
industry
Yeah.
is a big thing, and it's now too big to fail industry, right? It's just crazy.
And the thing we run into is like, when we think about this stuff, we think, and whenever we're discussing it, we're thinking it started like a couple of years ago. This whole thing started a lot longer. If we go back to all the stuff with like weed and hemp, and how hemp was supposed to be better than, say, cotton, and the cotton industry paid a bunch of people to say weed bad, marijuana bad, and weed bad. Yeah. And it's been like, and that's the thing I noticed with the United States, and this is something I recommend to people too, is travel more. This coming from, you're from Nigeria, right?
Yep.
So, and I can appreciate that because you're coming from another country's perspective, seeing the United States. And the thing is, when you travel enough, you realize the United States is the teenager of the world. It may be the future, but right now it is a bratty teenager. When we brag about, oh, well, this statue is 200 years old, people in the Middle East are like, okay, oh, that's cute. Okay.
Yeah, that's nothing. There's literally open racism in other countries, and no one bats an eye. But these corporations play the game so perfect, right? Because they'll come to the U.S. and say, "Hey, no, we support Black Lives Matter, we support all that," and then they'll go to China and it's like, "Yeah, none of that shit. We didn't really mean it. We don't actually care about that."
Yeah. And I've definitely experienced that from other countries. And like I said, like one thing I would love to see, and I'm sure you guys had conversations, like having the conversation with a Black American, a Black person from the UK, a Black person from Africa, and a Black person from the Caribbean. And I tell a lot of my white friends, like, if you think that you guys do not have a monopoly on racism, dude, I've been literally called Africa's garbage by Black Africans before.
That's facts. That's facts. And that was the thing because I talked about that movie in the last stream, the Homie Tribe, right? The Woman King that was based off of, and I was talking about how like Hollywood has gotten so crazy now, especially with their whole the obsession for representation has become so cancerous that now we're parading the former slave. Pretty much people who turned our ancestors into slaves and shipped them off to foreign countries and made a killing off of it, and they loved it. And you tried to not only whitewash the history like they've done with every other Black history, but then they're convinced a lot of Black people to basically praise it. Like this is one of you.
Yeah.
And the thing is, which luckily a lot of people are waking up and saying, "Hey, wait a minute, now, this is let's do a little Google research." Hey, Viola Davis, we got some questions for you, right?
Well,
before that, Hollywood, the fact that they spent millions of dollars, like $30 million creating this movie, and no one did the research to say, "Hey, would this bite us in the ass at some point?" I don't know if this will bite us in the ass at some point.
It's funny you mention that because I want, and somebody please fact check me, but I'm pretty certain, I think somebody had figured out that our vice president is a descendant of slave owners. And if you know about her record as a prostitute in California, that seems apropos.
Not only that, she's half Indian too, and her tribe, that the caste that her father's side came from were the side that also, I think they also own slaves.
Yeah,
like they actually legitimately old say because her dad, people don't think she's not actually Black, bro. She's Indian and white. Like that's what she is. She's like half Indian and white. And like her on her side, like they're because I forgot. I'm sorry, I don't know the Indian caste system, but I know there's like different tiers, and her family belonged to the higher tier that owned slaves.
Yeah,
so Kamala Harris.
I don't know it either, but this is something else I bring up with a lot of international companies or countries. The thing I've observed is it's very similar here. Like I'll give you an example of Sammy Sosa and others that have bleached their skin. Like it's a huge industry, not just here. Like it happens in Asia, in Africa, and almost every other continent. It's weird. Like on one hand, you'll get white people going to tanning booths and getting darker, and the other hand, you get all the other darker people wanting to be lighter. It's a weird.
But I think that's
It's a
all.
weird
I
thing.
think that's a mix of multiple different types of conditioning, though. I think
Yeah.
that's a mix of conditioning that not only our internal operations, I'm talking about like intelligence operations put
Mhm.
on us by whatever media sources that they decide to funnel our way. And then there's
Yeah.
also a combination of foreign entities that are also influencing media sources. I mean, we do this too to
Mm.
other countries, but other countries are
Oh
doing
yeah.
this to us, right? And on top of that, a lot of times the third thing is we do it to ourselves, most of us. So it's one of those
Yeah.
three things. But it also, with all those combinations, it also goes back to what we're talking about. Like a lot of this has been happening for a very long time, and now we've gotten to the point where the American people are in a very weakened state, very weakened and distracted state. Not only that, the American economy has completely been gutted. COVID exposed all of that.
Mm.
What COVID exposed is that, hey, our infrastructure sucks. We actually don't produce anything anymore, and we're really
Hmm.
just a service-based economy. Like no one produces, no wonder we have a crisis with men, because there's not anything for men to actually produce and be proud of.
Right.
So there's a lot of issues there, right? So now America is in a very vulnerable spot. Now we talked about a potential war that's going to be happening. I'm not even saying potential at this point. If you guys aren't
Mm.
paying attention, because the video I'm going to play here in just a second, war is going to come. It's just
Mm.
what that landscape is going to look like is going to be the different story. But what you guys also have to understand is that with the slow buildup and escalation of it, US is at a point right now where our manufacturing industry is not as strong as you think it is. If we even with the amount of munitions that is being depleted overseas right now with the Ukrainian war, the Russia-Ukrainian war, right? It's going to be difficult. We're already having a hard time as it is replenishing some of the stuff that we're giving out. Imagine where we having a full-scale war, like a full-scale escalation, which is what we're headed to right now.
Mm.
There's a very, very strong chance we're heading to full-scale escalation. We don't even have the internal infrastructure and manpower to replenish the munitions that we're going to be losing, especially when we come to smart weapons. And we got a lot of dumb weapons. You can
Yeah.
slap a fucking turret to a goddamn Toyota if you wanted to
Mm.
and drive around in that. I mean, those are fine. Those will work well. I mean, but we're losing. We don't even have the intellectual capabilities to even build smarter. I won't say build. I won't say intellectual capabilities, but intellectual manpower, right?
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of men who are coming in on the side to design
No.
these specialized weapons for the specialized systems that we're building. So there's a lot of issues that we have that the U.S. is going to seriously consider. And here's the thing: you don't think our enemies know that? You don't think that this Russia, Ukrainian thing was just the starting stage to not only test what the how the world is going to react to this, and we're seeing that the world is basically saying, "Holy shit!" Well, the U.S. basically goaded Ukraine this entire time, and now they're really not backing Ukraine like that, huh? Should I really trust the word of the United States, right? And on top of that, look
Mm.
what they're doing to Germany right now. They basically we're hanging Germany out to dry for this, right? Germany had an opportunity because they had a strong relationship with Russia, especially when it came down to the oil with the Nord Stream pipelines. And the second one just got bombed, by the way. I mean, we don't know who destroyed the pipeline, but it just got destroyed. But here's the thing: we basically, because of the quick reaction and how we pushed Germans to basically go with the sanctions, they've shot themselves in the foot with this incoming energy crisis that they're going to be facing and the people are going to be facing. So we hung Ukraine out to dry. We're basically basically destroying our partners, right? With the Germany basically being an economic risk, and even most of Europe right now becoming at risk, right? What is this saying about the whole way the world is going to perceive us, right? It's showing that the US on a global stage, even though it's the global leader, it does not stand on its word, or it would sacrifice its own people's or allies' economies just to get to the next stage of their agenda. You understand? So what's happening now is that we're trying to figure out where we need to go with this. right? We're trying to figure out where we need to go because now China, all these other countries that are watching, they know how the world reacts. They know that the world isn't really fucking with the US like that. So we're slowly graduating to a point where there's going to be that escalation. And I think what's happening right now, because the dumbass, I forgot the other region. I'm like, spacing out right now, but one of them was a Donbass, and there was another one. The name is these names are fucking skipping me, but like those were the two breakaway regions. The main one that Ukraine used to have problems with before Russia mounted an attack into Ukraine, and
Crimea?
with huh.
Crimea?
Crimea, no, Crimea was the first one. Crimea was the
Okay.
first attempt, and I think that was in that was during Obama. Crimea was Obama, but
Mm.
Crimea that was done out of necessity because U.S. already had a plan to try to, or they wrote out a plan to try to get Ukraine into the into the United, not the United Nations. Was it the
NATO.
United Nations? The NATO, right? NATO,
Yeah.
right? They were trying to get NATO, EU, all these goddamn fucking
Dude.
global bodies, right? They're all over the place, and these
Yeah.
weird ass acronyms too. But they had those plans back in 2000. I don't know if it was 2008, but right off the bat, they had the plans out there to basically incorporate Ukraine to NATO. And when Obama was pretty much looking like he was marching ahead to make that a reality, Russia knew that they had to get Crimea because Crimea is very important, not only sea-wise in terms of ports and how Russia gets a lot of its goods and stuff in and out of into the ocean, but it also serves like an important thing for like their trade routes too as well. So they had to do it. That was almost like a lifeline to them. And it also helped that majority of those people that lived in Crimea were also technically ethnically Russian, right? Just like, how you go to, if we black people, we go down there, we hear a Ukrainian speak and we see a Russian speak, we'd be like, what's the difference, right? But to them, hey, you Russian over there, and them they're like, oh, you Ukrainian, you be different people. We don't like you, right? But you can say that Crimea was definitely ethnically Russian. So even the invasion that went down there, it wasn't really shit because a lot of people were already like, yeah, great, like welcome Russia. And to Putin's point, not even Putin's point, but to Putin's mistake, he actually thought because of the way he was welcomed in Crimea, that's how Ukraine was going to kind of be like, and it wasn't the case. All of Ukraine pretty much rejected, Russian advance. Not all of Ukraine, but there's certain major areas of Ukraine that fought back with severity. So that's what delayed a lot of what Putin's agenda and even some of the equipment that was coming out, but. Anyways, on the world stage, it's basically setting it up because we know for a fact that the U.S. is going to intervene in some way, form, or manner, and the liberal agenda, the world agenda that's basically set to basically spread liberal world order across the world to every nation and country while simultaneously backing dictators. I don't know how that shit works out, but you let me know, right? These are the guys, and Biden, Kamala Harris. They're all part of that globalist agenda. I mean, it's a real agenda. It's not a conspiracy thought. That's a real thing. The liberal world order that stemmed out of World War II, because the U.S. thought, hey, since we're the only guys left that didn't fall into some kind of weird communism or Nazism, and we pretty much kicked the Nazis' ass, right? Yeah. I think the liberal way of us doing things should be the new way of doing things. And they were was it a unipolar? At that point, we were a unipolar moment where a lot of the power centralized in the United States because we came out of the war stronger. But now we're getting to the tail end of that strength, right? The economy is not as strong, the dollar's not as strong, trust isn't really there. So we're coming to that tail end of the whole shebang, and people are losing faith in what we have going on. And what I see with the signs happening is that what's going to happen next is going to be a provocation, right? Because the U.S. is facing this situation where, hey, economy wise, our shit's going to be kind of gutted. We're not, I mean, we'll fight this war, but we're not going to come out like unscathed like some of the other countries we've been fighting this whole time, right? So it's not going to be a cakewalk. And China's looking at it and saying, hey, we fucked up too back in the day. We had this one-child policy, and now we get to a point where our future generations or the future generations are going to be coming out. It's not even going to be enough to replace the tax-paying base that we have right now. Talk less of even invading other countries. So if we have to fulfill the full prophecy, which is one China, right? Which is the communist dream ever since its inception. we have to take Taiwan. But there's no greater moment of doing that versus within the next 5 to 10 years, right? Because that's when this is the span where they're going to have the access to the most amount of young men at military age ready for war, and where they're going to be able to basically seize their tactical opportunity. Because after this point in time, the demographic, they're not going to have the manpower. Their economy is even, if you look at it right now, it's on some rocky platforms. So there's a lot of tension right now, not only within a lot of these countries that are going to be our potential adversaries, but it's also we're seeing tensions within our country too as well. Because I mean, Biden is going full steam ahead with this shit right now. So there's a little geopolitics of what's going on right now. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, but you brought up a good point, and I'm gonna keep saying this over and over because I am no expert in geopolitics, but I have been kind of paying attention to stuff over the years, and I make some observations going back to, like I said, I did a brief 4-year stint in the military pre 9/11, and then saw the last 20 years. So on the one hand, you're right about what China's saying with all their one child policy things coming to fruition, and this is their time to strike. And on the other hand, I say this, while the U.S. has had 20 years of experience with Afghanistan and Iraq and all that stuff, regardless of the ending, they have a lot of that experience where wars are normal. You're right. The things that are eroding are within, where it's like, okay, we're still questioning the Iraq war. If you watch, I think I watched Joe Budden's podcast with Rob O'Neill, the guy that took out bin Laden. And he was even saying, like, he was kind of skeptical, and I'm not speaking verbatim, like, and I recommend people watch, it's a good podcast. But like, when you get people that have been through combat and stuff, and they're in prior to Afghanistan and then the fall of Afghanistan, they're like seeing, like, what do we do this for? When I was in it, I was like, well, I like the idea of, I'm very civic minded and would like the idea of, like, for a kind of like a quasi Starship Troopers kind of thing where people earn their citizenship. I like that. Like, if you spend X amount of time cleaning the roads or whatever, doing something for your community, for lack of a better word, you get certain privileges. I'm all for that. But when you see people, when we're going to dealing with all these other countries' affairs and throwing trillions of dollars, like, I definitely don't agree with a lot of the opinions about the whole student loan forgiveness thing. However,
I don't agree with it.
Yeah, if we're gonna dump money, we have money to we can send a couple trillion over to some other random country. All these problems could have been solved here. I wouldn't have done that approach, but the option would have been there, and you could have been like, okay, we don't like you because you don't want us to have free everything. Sure, but it's hard to be. I won't say against. It's hard to be strongly against it when we're also making it rain for other countries. And and I'm pretty certain if you've driven down American roads, or if for people that have children in the American public school system, like, woke stuff and all the other stuff aside, like, it hasn't been the best, most stellar environment for people coming up. And like, and you can see this, and I tell people living in America, all this country, and I've lived in a few zip codes, you can change one number in your zip code, any one random number to another number. In fact, I recommend people do that. Like, figure out what you find your zip code, take one random number in that zip code and change the number, and figure out where in the U.S. you would live. Your life changes drastically. You learn this, like, in California, it's not like the entire neighborhood of, say, South Central LA, the entire neighborhood's bad, blah, blah, blah. But it's like a pocket here, a pocket there. It's not like East Coast where you're like, okay, Bed-Stuy, back in the day, pretty rough. East St. Louis, you're naming neighborhoods off. Here, it's like a cul-de-sac in a neighborhood, a block here, a one number in a zip code. So when I see that experience and have been through public schools in 3 different states, and this is like well before 9/11 when I went through this stuff, and it wasn't the most stellar experience, I'm thinking, like, why are we dumping money in all these other countries' problems and we also hear how people like to say how American colonizing, blah, 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 and butting in other people's affairs. Yet they don't mind that money. One thing you learn is, as much people will rag on Americans, they don't mind that U.S. dollar, and that's the only thing keeping this economy going, is the fact that other people use it.
Well,
which
here's the
could
thing. The
possibly
reason,
change.
and I'm gonna tell you this: the reason why America does what it does is because of the liberal agenda, like the liberal
Mm,
world order. Because it's like think of it as a double-edged sword, right? Because here's the thing: when you feel as though that your way of viewing the world is so right that you have to then go into other people's countries and meddle with. So what if someone a country elects a dictator? That's
yeah.
them. That's their
Yep.
democratically elected dictator. Who are
Yeah.
we to go ahead and stop that? Because that's an anti-democratic thing to do, to go in there and prevent that. So why would we go ahead and do what we say that we're against? Well, the reason why is because with the liberal world order, the double-edged blade is we would much rather have other people thinking our way so much that we will go in and forcefully destroy a democratically elected leader and
Yep.
install someone who's more lenient to our view
Hmm.
of seeing things, right, versus their view of seeing things. And it just doesn't work because cultures are way too different. And you can see that because some of these countries that we end up going into, they end up becoming destabilized relatively quickly. I mean, the
Yeah.
puppet government that we end up setting up in these countries don't last too long because the people see it as it's a farce, it's a joke. Like, get rid of these guys, like, get them out of here. So they see it. And the reason why we have to do that is because we're so scared of everyone else coming after us and our ideology that it's
Yep.
better for us to go ahead and attack them and get rid of them and get them facing our way, of get them thinking the way we think before it gets out of hand. But indirectly, we're going to do what we set it out to not do, which is we're setting up dictators that are more lenient to the
Yeah.
American order than actually basically having their own internal democracy. And that's what we have right now with Russia. And Russia, technically, you can argue that they're technically kind of fighting for their lives right now, because there were plans drawn up by joint intelligence forces to carve up Russia into 5 different provinces. You guys understand
Mm,
that, right? There's original documents set up to do that. That's part of the plan, like to carve up Russia so it breaks up the other big powers. We're trying to go back into that unipolar moment where
mm,
United States was the top dog and we didn't have all these smaller or
yeah.
other rival superpowers popping up out of nowhere. Now we got the Asia popping up. Now Russia with the attack on Ukraine is slowly starting to establish itself. Like we can't have this. We it is too much, right? Too many powers. The US isn't dominant. Now the liberal world order feels at threat. And you see with the moves that Biden is making, right, with the provocations, with the explosions, the recent explosions of the Nord Stream pipeline, right? We're going to play a video on this. One on the first surface, you would think that this is something that maybe the U.S., not the U.S., the Russia did, right? They already cut off the pipeline to Europe, so now they're making sure that Europe doesn't get any more oil on the back end by blowing it up. That's what one would think. But
Mm,
realistically, if you look at the evidence around it and the people who are going to be investigating the destruction of this pipeline, you would quickly realize that, hey, the people investigating this, Great Britain, US, who are going to be in charge of this stuff, right, are also the ones who have all to gain from destroying this pipeline by
yeah.
trying to provoke the other country to take action so we can go in and do what we want to do best, because we
Mm,
got some extreme guys in office right now that's got the empty husk, the empty husk, the guy we call president, right? They got him in there and they're saying, hey, listen, bruh, going into Russia, it's easy. It's just like Afghanistan. Don't worry, we'll be in and out, right? Hey,
yeah.
let's try to force them. We got to force them to do a tactical nuke, right? We got to force them to basically start getting nukes involved. That listen, y'all don't
Mm,
understand this. Nukes have to be involved in order for the U.S. to justify it. And I won't be surprised if there's going to be a false flag popping up out of nowhere that involves some kind of mass attack on civilians using nukes
mm,
to basically tug on the American heartstrings to go into war. And once we go full scale into that, bro, y'all don't understand, right? Like with the full referendum in place, the with the somebody please put the other region in the chat, please, the other breakaway region. But if anyone, so Ukraine right now is mounting an offensive, or they were mounting an offensive. I don't know what happened to it. Somebody let me know what happened to the Ukraine offensive. But I think they took some small town, and then they're saying it's a big victory. But What if now Ukraine, with the backing of U.S. weapons, we're now going back to try to take some of those regions that were taken away? Well, Russia already just established with that a provocation on those regions is an official attack on Russia. They would offend it, just like we're trying to pseudo do with Taiwan, right? So there's a lot of situations going on here that can easily lead us to a slippery slope to war. Again, I'm letting you know the intelligence apparatus we have in this country actually had a plan out there to not only depose Putin, but to break away Russia into 5 different regions. So that's what's happening out right now. The Ultimum says Libya. Yeah, Obama was part of that. Gaddafi, right? The whole situation. Gaddafi, he was the democratically, you call him democratically elected, I guess, but he was the guy that they chose to be the guy, right? But when he started talking about, hey, let's unite all of Africa, let's break away from the dollar and go back to gold, right? All of a sudden, wait, that goes against the liberal order here, buddy, because now we can't rely on oil, the petrodollar. We need the petrodollar because we have a sweet deal with the Saudis, man. Like, are you crazy? Right? Are you dumb? So you got to go, Gaddafi. You can't be talking this united stuff because you're going against our interests. So you're absolutely right. And now we have slaves in Libya. So thank you, Obama. I really appreciate that.
It's funny because you mentioned that when we talk about how things have eroded within. And I'll say this, like, as much as we hear about the words conspiracy, I go, well, okay. You get mad at the person shooting the message. Like, you get mad at, say, I'll give an example. Say, like, the Andrew Tates for whatever message they shoot. You get mad at Donald Trump's for they shoot. You get mad at the Joe Rogan's for they shoot. Nobody's getting mad at the reason why those people have been kind of have valid points. Not like they just came out of nowhere. It's not like Donald Trump happened overnight. Like, I'm not a Trump guy by any means, but I'm seeing, like, okay, why not get upset at the thing that enabled that in the first place? And if we go back in all the talk about conspiracies, like I said, I'm not going to state certain facts or whatever. I don't have all the answers. However, when I'm remembering all the stuff about the Iraq War and weapons of mass destruction, blah blah blah, that set the tone for me. I am average Joe watching news. Like, okay, you guys said this is happening here, and this is the first time. If we go back to the Vietnam War, the Gulf of Tonkin incident, for all we know, there. And the thing is, like, we're just now finding out about this stuff. What about all the stuff we don't know? Like, the stuff we're discovering is today. Imagine how many things have been involved. I told a friend this last year, or a couple of years ago, with all the stuff in 2020 started. And I'm keeping this in mind because I've been paying attention to all the COVID stuff, not when it hit the U.S., like when the first cases happened in Wuhan. I just coincidentally was paying attention to a lot of international news. So those wildfires in Australia, around the time the Hong Kong protest, I just happened to be paying attention to the news over in that region. And next thing you know, I hear all the stuff with COVID. And to be fair, I had also just finished watching that series Chernobyl on HBO. Right around the time I'm watching all this. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I have worked government jobs before, just as a contractor, not like a permanent government employee. And I've also been in the military and seen, Department of Defense or not, it's still government adjacent. So with all the inefficiencies and over budgeting, you see that too. And I'm like, okay, there's something breaking out. We haven't had a pandemic since the Spanish flu about 100 years ago, kind of coming around that time. I know what this is already looking like. And while everybody was stocking up toilet paper, I was stocking up vitamins and medicine and stuff because, to your point you mentioned earlier, we don't manufacture anything over here. And that is not that was a bipartisan effort. So go back 20 years before today, right? A lot of companies started outsourcing because it saves them costs, outsourcing a lot of stuff overseas. We can just have
China.
Yeah,
outsourcing built China.
X do it. Yeah, and not just China, Mexico. Like, I remember this running joke, and if I think there was a way to look up like where your car is manufactured based on the manufacturing year and everything. And my most American-made car was a Honda Accord, out of all the manufacturing stuff. Meanwhile, and I've had a couple of American cars, like a Dodge Neon, which was mostly manufactured in Mexico. So we see all this stuff, and I'm kind of in the mode of, like, not just our country, every country should have their own independent. You should be able to operate independently for reasons like this, especially one this big. So as you mentioned earlier, a lot of the stuff with COVID exposed all this, like how failing our system is.
It really is.
And my snub on the right wing when they talk about the CRT and all this stuff, I'm like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me you're complaining about Marxism and socialism stuff? You mean to tell me you are outsourcing, yes, outsourcing the security and education of your children to the lowest paid government employees, and now you're somehow mad at the result? You're surprised at the results? You're surprised at all this stuff? And then when then when COVID happened, here's what I hear a lot of: they need to reopen the schools. So you've been complaining to me about, and I hear the complaints about indoctrination camps, and then you're begging to reopen the indoctrination camps. And sure, you're going to tell me, well, you don't have kids, you don't know what it's like. Okay, if you're going to go through the trouble of raising a kid, be able to raise. Look, I went to private school prior to public school, so I'm very biased, and I went through multiple public schools in California, New York, and South Carolina. I'll say this, like, all that aside, the biggest factor in an effective, a good school is the size of the classroom. Red, blue, I don't care what state. If you have a small enough classroom, you can make teachers can do their thing. And I don't snub on the teachers as much. A lot of this is the administrative side of things. But getting to my point is, like, you're entrusting the safety of your kids to the lowest paid government employees, and people are surprised at the results of what we're getting. They're being taught all these things. They're not being taught this stuff. Like, I remember when
taught at all.
Right. And that's the thing. When I went to public, even in public school as a kid, so I'm thinking about like things like shop class, things like a lot of vocational schools, even that
driver's ed used to be a thing.
Even
right?
that easy home ec class was basic skills.
I used to take metals. I used to learn how to weld, like all these practical knowledge skills, things that really the reason why they didn't have those skills in high school back in the day is because like you're giving guys another alternative into the work source. Back when we were producing things, right?
I took an electricity class.
Exactly.
I took a class in 10th grade. It was called we got this book called Modern House Wiring. So I learned how to put together a fuse box and stuff. And I'm like, and that was one of those things that kind of like gave me an incentive to lean towards computer science, something STEM related. I was like, oh, this is cool. I can put these wires together and I've got light. And so that's what I say, like, aside from tech, I tell people, like, and this is where you run, this is how I'm going to give you a solution that, giving people a solution during this environment. There's all this panic and stuff going around. We have, aside from the tech jobs, we have a shortage of plumbers, electricians. Dude, I make a decent amount of money, but you know what I'm not going to do? Snake my drains and fix my toilets. And that's the secret to if you want a high paying job, you find something nobody else knows how to do. If I weren't in tech, if you were in a metropolitan city, here's what I would tell you to do, aside from electrician: elevator repair. I knew a guy, just a friend of a friend. He did elevator repair and lives in San Diego and stuff. He gets called once in a while, but $4,000. I don't know what his exact salary was, but on his, he worked a 9 to 5 during the week or whenever he was called. Maybe on call once in a while. Weekends, he'd go out on his boat. So like, and if you're an electrician, look, I don't care how much if you're an AWS architect or a cybersecurity expert. If you don't have electricity,
you're not doing shit.
None of that stuff matters. Look,
nothing.
Look, if this happens, then who am I going to call? I'm not going to go on the internet and know what I'm going to, because I know most people I know that are homeowners that do a lot of their own maintenance. The vast majority of the ones I know do not touch electricity. They're not going to go mess with the fuse box. Yeah. So, and I tell people, like, you don't need a degree for that. Go find those. And even like, if you're going to go to a school for some kind of like fine arts or whatever, or like liberal arts degree, still get that skill. That doesn't mean if you want to paint, whatever, cool, but get a skill that helps pay your bills. Don't build up a skill. You can have
we're not seeing that nowadays because even medias are not promoting that. Matter of fact, we got medias promoting quick influencer type culture, right? Where everyone thinks that they're going to be famous on YouTube. Even it's even down to the kids with the rise of TikTok, another huge security concern for a lot of guys in the military, for other guys who are working security in the cyber or network field, right? Where you have to worry about applications like that and what information that that they're taking and what information that we don't know that they're taking,
Right.
what
You,
access they have outside of even their application itself. Like you
yeah,
got to realize, and then not only that, the influence that, because all of a sudden you understand the algorithm is manipulated in depending on which countries. Because in China, they're not seeing the same type of
no,
TikToks that we're seeing in America. Matter of fact, it seems like the TikToks we're seeing is designed to increase the level of anxiety, stupidity, and
yeah,
basically drug use. We've seen the
yeah,
outpouring of people who are reacting to TikToks of people pretending to have mental health issues. Like, what in the hell is that,
yeah,
right? People
and
pretending
in
to, it's crazy. It's
yeah,
crazy.
and
So,
I got a
go ahead.
theory on it, like a combination of that too. Like I don't have an Instagram, like I don't use it, and not out of any specific reason. Like it's just a lot more things to track for me. But I look at the other side, like, and I'm going to say this, like, if you have an Instagram, perfect, fine. I don't think it's inherently bad out of the box. However, I do think it is fertilizer for narcissists. You know what I mean? Like it probably makes you everybody a little bit, and there's a little bit of whatever traits aren't going to kill you. But if you're already, if it's like it'd be like having somebody with a porn addiction working for a porn company, like doing
Yeah.
like video editing and stuff. Probably not going to be that productive. If anything, it could be detrimental to health. Or an alcoholic working at a bar. Like you can go to a bar, you can work at a bar. If you're an
Mm,
alcoholic, probably not want to work there. And so with a lot of that stuff, and a lot of it's just too much information, too distracting. And like I'm on Reddit
well, that's the
occasionally.
point.
Yeah, I'm on Reddit, same username by the way.
Yeah.
And even then it's like it's still a lot of distraction. So I find myself, just for the sake of my own sanity and optimization, I only log on to a handful of devices. Like I might have Facebook on my main computer, but that is literally the only device I'm logging on Facebook from.
Yeah.
And I might like I'll delete it and reinstall it when I want to check something or do something specific. More so with Twitter if I'm on there. If anything else, just for my own sanity.
Mm.
A buddy of mine recommended a book recently, and I'm kind of going to do this, kind of like sanitize my own life. If you give me a second, I can go grab it real quick.
Go do your thing. Go do your
Okay,
thing. Yeah.
give me 1 second.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go into the chat real quick. But yeah, there's a yeah, because like people think you guys say, oh, this is a conspiracy. Oh, we got to no, dude, this is real. This is real life. There, I mean, the liberal world order, the new agenda, it's been a thing. Because when people say it, it's like, oh, yeah, it's a conspiracy. It's conspiracy. No, it's a real thing. It's an actual the doctrines written about this by guys who who were hand selected from Ivy League schools to work for these security agencies, right? So they put together these plans to basically say, hey, this is how we're going to social engineer a bunch of people to think. All right. And they got us thinking that, hey, things that are obvious conspiracies that are obviously true, oh, they're just, belong to kooky people that wears fucking tinfoil hats. And it's not the case, because a lot of the things that we're seeing, we're experiencing right now the convergence of technology and a bunch of ideals that are being put into one giant entity, which is like mass control, surveillance. That's a thing, right? We're going to be taking the Chinese model in a second here. That's going to be a huge thing where things are going to start getting based off of social credit systems. I mean, if you want to just talk about the last stream we had about content creators being banned and being silenced off of certain platforms, that in a way in itself is a form of a social credit system, right? You said something we didn't like and we didn't appreciate, so you don't get access to this service anymore. Wake up, people. It's been happening all around us. It's just that the United States, it gets fed with a little bit of flavor when other countries, they don't really give a fuck about freedom of speech and that illusion nonsense. They
No.
just, they want to take action. They take action. But go ahead.
Yep.
Let's hear the book.
Yeah, so a buddy of mine recommended this book, and I've got a lot of reading to do on it. But this book is called "Extreme Privacy: What Takes to Disappear." It's a pretty heavy read, but it's given a lot of tips on like basically just sanitizing a lot of stuff in your life. The author had previous versions where they were focused on like if you have an iPhone, but in their case they're wanting something a little with more security, or let me rephrase that, where you have more control over the devices itself.
Mhm.
A lot of that cleanup helps. And this is something I go into with how I was able to work my way through some of my career, not necessarily in terms of sanitizing, but controlling your own narrative. So I started off in regular IT. From the Navy on out, I worked a lot of desktop support, sysadmin, engineering roles, worked my way up, and then around 2010, I started going to conferences like DEF CON. It's a big HackerCon event that
Yeah, I
happens once a
noticed.
year. Yeah, I could do a whole talk on just that for like a good hour.
We could do another stream too about
Oh,
that.
okay, yeah.
Because what I want to do, because I know we're gonna do a politic type of a stream where we
Yeah.
just overall, but we can do another one where we can go in depth. Because I also plan a stream where I just have guys do like some back end stuff with Python, where we could just create some little
Okay.
mini projects with Python. I know
Yeah.
on my Duke and Don channel, somebody asked a question where even in breaking into certain levels of tech, right? I think even just learning basic skills. I think Python, Node.js is a little bit more complicated, but
Yeah.
Python, you learn some of these other basic one, like even JavaScript. Java is going to be a little bit more of an investment, but
Yeah.
learning some of these programming languages, to get you at least a leg up. And then another thing I would say that's a very important skill that I have to hold myself to the fire on is Linux. Linux is very important, people. You
Okay.
have to understand Linux. You have to get used to using the terminals. You got to get used to building certain things there. You got to get comfortable with Linux because, first of all, that's not only going to put you ahead in any IT. Just even saying you know a little bit of Linux in a small organization, that's going to get you far. In terms, you're likely going to get hired over someone who doesn't really understand Linux, because a lot of Azure systems, virtual machines, even a lot of websites, even goddamn YouTube, they're all
Embedded
run
devices.
off of Linux servers. So if you get Linux, what you got there? What you got there?
Oh, these are Raspberry Pis.
There you go.
So
there
this
you
one,
go.
this one I was running what's called a Pi hole, it's a DNS sinkhole, so it'll block out a lot of ads and traffic. I've run other things on this one, like I want to actually put together like a security camera system, and not using something like Ring, like just seeing how to do it from using all open source.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and
these
that's
things
the
are
thing.
like,
Because some people will say, okay, well, dude, Linux is open source. Open source software, bro. Do you know what's going on with open source? Everyone can get access to it. But here's the thing: Linux is also a thing that pretty much a lot of people use. So there are going to be people out there who obviously it's open source, but there are going to be people like Nick Fury over here who are going to be putting down, probably searching through and making sure they can patch whatever situations going on with Linux.
That's the advantage of open source, is by it being wide open, everybody sees the source code and can see how it's built. So somebody gave me a really good. Somebody brought up one of my friends brought up a really good idea on like as far as fixing political stuff. Are you familiar with GitHub?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how it works with the code repository, and it'll show you trends and changes of whoever's done what. It's very good at auditing things. Imagine if we had a legal system like that, where like if a congressman wanted to make a change, you'd see it posted right away. You'd see when you could audit
that
laws.
would never happen. It's too
No,
transparent.
it wouldn't. That's the thing. That's the thing. I go every time. Like I follow a lot of Second Amendment content, right?
Yeah.
And you'll always see these guys. Well, it should be illegal, blah blah blah, because Constitution. Like, dude, who do you think is writing these laws? You think you think the people making these laws are gonna go, oh yeah, we should, that's unfair for average people, so we should make that illegal. You think Nancy Pelosi is like, we shouldn't allow people in Congress to buy stuff? Oh wait,
No, bro, that's not how that works. No. You can do it. You trust me, you can. It's not that hard. Coming from a guy, I didn't start in tech, bro. You understand my background from Duke to Dot. I came in from sales. Started out help desk, then graduated to desktop. And the thing is, it's the certifications that are going to bridge the gap. And now I'm going from where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I'm going into freaking networking. Like that's it. You have to keep progressing, because tech in itself is such a rabbit hole. It's not even. I even considered doing DevOps for a while. But I'm not. My Linux.
Okay.
Is.
I gotta give a few words easy here,
Go
because
ahead.
you're getting fired up. All right. So you say you don't think you can do it because you've never been a tech guy. Your thing is arts and history. Let me stop you right there. I'm going to tell you a little more about my background. I didn't break down my background. So,
and guys, I see you backstage. So we'll bring you guys up after we get close to the end here. But he's got.
I did start off. So I did start off major computer science. I failed my programming class and got an F in it the first time around. And the second semester, I took it again. I could have cheated and didn't, and failed it again. And then I joined the Navy. And here's the deal, right? If you're not afraid to make mistakes and you just run towards the hard shit, you can do good in tech. A lot of people, I'm going to speak specifically on cybersecurity, because I made a jump over to that within the last 4 or 5 years and working it now. I know lots of people in the field. I know some that have computer science degrees. I've known a lot more that had degrees in English literature or other things. A lot of them coming over from biotech. A lot of them you'll find if you find a thing that works for you and you like doing it, you can do it. So arts and history, I can break down how that will work out for you. If you're into the arts, maybe your thing in tech is media and editing. I could tell you now, I'm pretty bad at editing videos, and there's times where I'm like, hey, if I could find somebody to help me, help me get to a point where I can self sustain and make more content, I would if I had an editor. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
Mm-hmm. Even web
Yeah.
development, right?
Do
Even
not
learning
sell
things like
yourself. Yeah.
CSS,
Do
right?
not sell yourself
CSS,
short.
yeah, just learning some
Yeah.
front end stuff too would get you great jobs in within
Yeah,
a tech
easy. I'm gonna give
department
you a
as
homework
well.
assignment, right? I'm gonna give you a homework assignment right now, easy. Won't take long. I want you to find something you don't know how to do. It doesn't matter what it is. It might be something as simple as like making Thai food, making like drunken noodles for yourself. Google your way through it until you do it. If you can do that, you can work in tech. It's a lot of that is a lot of what you do. I am not a Python expert. I am Googling my way and struggling through code myself right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you
A
can,
lot of people IT
yeah,
don't really do
no,
they don't, like coding is
I'm
not
one of the
unless
few,
unless
yeah,
you work on a web team or like
yeah,
you come from someone that works with AWS or something like that,
yeah,
or who's familiar with those certifications, then you don't really work a whole lot with code. A lot of stuff you do is just some it
yeah,
depends what it is. It depends on where you decide to start out with.
yeah. So like, I'll break down
A
that.
lot of
Like, if
people
I'm looking
don't
at,
know code in IT.
yeah, if I'm looking at differences in degrees, so we have on one hand you'll hear like IT degrees, and that's what I got in my bachelor's in, and on the other hand, your computer science. The difference between computer science and IT in the workforce: computer science means you made the operating system for the iPhone. IT means you're installing and making sure it's working after it's been deployed. A lot of people in this, I've worked in a lot of companies, is like you'll get people that'll develop a product. That doesn't mean they're they fix all the things in the product once it's operational. There's lots of, and the thing with tech is there's so many different roles you can have, and they evolve over time. So you don't necessarily want to get too comfortable in one role unless it's something where only 3 people know how to do. Like if you're a mainframe expert in this country, or if you are an expert in industrial control systems, you'll probably have a good job lineup because there aren't many people that are doing it, and there aren't necessarily schools and tracks. So that skill set
There's
of
not a
people,
clear there's really
yeah,
not, especially for a lot
no,
of career paths in IT. There's not a clear path because someone can get
no,
a computer science degree but then go in and do something completely different. I had a guy
yeah.
who actually did mainframe with the state of Wisconsin.
Oh
So that
wow,
was pretty interesting that you mentioned that.
wow,
But there was an intern that was working in our office, and he was from the big college here in Wisconsin, Madison here. So he was coming in, but they had him doing some of the mainframe work, but realistically, I mean, he was going for a computer science degree, but they also had him doing help desk. Right,
yeah,
so they had him they had
dude,
him kind of like half and half, which is a
yeah,
weird hybrid position that they had him in. But who
yeah,
cares? He was a fucking college intern, but they had him
yeah.
doing help desk work, which is completely different. I mean, mainframe you answer calls depending on what situation is going on and
Mhm.
whatever. It depends on the size of the organization you're working with,
Yeah,
but depending on which, it's pretty much like 2 completely different roles. He's got
yeah,
so there's not, just because you get a computer science degree doesn't mean that there's a set path that you're gonna go. You might even jump from that to like now you're working with Microsoft Azure, right? You're working with
yep,
the platforms. You're building multiple and deploying multiple virtual machines for big organizations. They need that. They will pay you. That's a 6-figure earning
yeah.
job. And guess
And the
what?
thing,
It only costs about 150 bucks for the actual certification to at
yeah,
least know what it is. And when you get on a job, they train you. So
right.
it's doable. It's doable. It just takes effort. Go ahead.
And 2 things, like one, an answer. I'll get to the question. I want to answer that question about coding boot camp or comp sci degree. So you mentioned this, like there's no linear path. Like don't like you're not necessarily looking for a linear path. You're building up skills one way or another. With that point, when you mentioned Python, we're mentioning
Hop
Node.js
on.
and all this stuff. The thing I noticed is like it's not necessarily learning a programming language. Learn how to solve the problems. Like what'll happen, and it seems to happen to a lot of friends. I'm coming in as a Python expert, and they go to a company, and they're not coming on as a Python developer. They might be coming on to work on a security team, and the company's like, well, all our code is in Ruby. Okay, we'll make that shift. You know, any developer will tell me that. I'm sure. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If you're a developer and you've had
I'm a
this
former
problem,
developer. You
yeah.
guys.
So you've probably seen this
Yeah.
thing where like you're coming in telling them you've done all this stuff in this code in language A, and they're like, oh well, we're doing language B now and language C. But you're like, oh well, I know how to figure out stuff and automate it. It's not the language, it's
It's the
the thing.
method.
Exactly.
I,
Learn how to
And
solve the
that's
problem.
Yeah, and another thing is, I would say even just talking about the guys who were talking about coding is not as complex as you think. Even just looking at it when
Oh,
I was getting
please, I
into
can
it,
do it
I
now.
was just like, oh, holy shit, bro, this looks like a lot because you look at the syntax and you look at the
Yeah.
certain the program, the languages that you have to put in. First of all, it's different for different programs that you're looking for. For instance, Python is going to be different than it is in Java,
Yep.
or it's going to be different than it is in Apache or PHP, or so it's going to be different languages for
Yeah.
different systems you're going to be working on. But the thing is, if you
Basically.
start with one language, right? Like let's say Python. I think personally, I don't know I don't know what level of experience you guys are at with Python. I think Python was the easier start for me, like just building basic computing and like even just
learning?
like just getting the idea. It's just that because then you get the underlying structure of how to like basically structure and read your code, and you get that, and it follows through with when you're working with Java. It's just learning the different commands, learning different syntax to fit in, but the structure overall would be the same. So it's just my advice would be focus on one language, focus in, learn that, and then what you start to understand is it'll get easier to pick up other languages too as well. So just
For
don't
sure.
be discouraged by that. It's just pushing yourself through.
May I
Go ahead,
speak
Michael.
on that? Yeah, I want to speak on that. He's absolutely correct with like learn one language. I've actually, I'm not going to say why or how, but I've taught people how to, do tech multiple times because after a while, when I started making money off this stuff, that was my designation. I went from just the guy who was making the software to the guy who had to explain how this shit worked because this was early 2000s. No one understood this shit. So one thing I would say, if you're going to focus on one language, because nowadays if you do know one language, they're like, well, we got a bot that can replace you, man. There's your fucking job.
Yep.
I would say focus on one language that has, what's the correct term? Expansive syntax.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on a language that you can apply the format to other languages. I would say like Perl. I think that might be one of them. PHP. I'm trying to find a list because it's like 7 that I know
PHP is a
just
good
flow
one.
with each other.
Java.
Java. You gotta invest a lot of time in. I'm still digging through that.
It's everywhere.
Oh, Java is everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Java,
Java,
I learned it myself.
Java. Then you got C hash and C++. Those are the
That's
other
one regret I always
especially
have.
if you're going
I
into gaming.
never took it would have took me like 4 months to learn Java, and I just didn't do it. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't need it. I can just
and most places don't unless you're unless you're working as part of like web teams or like because IT is very expansive.
Yeah.
You go to one IT, there's like multiple different departments, each fighting for budgets, each fight for different things. So there's lots of even many departments within that. So it's just like where in IT do you want to go? Because we have a web team, and my team doesn't have we don't handle tickets that come through that has to do with the stuff that has to do with websites and updates and stuff for the company. We send that off to them. They can go ahead and add the button and do whatever the hell they want to do. That's not us. If you're having serious issues or one of our machines are down and whatever, then I come in and I got to figure out what's up, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it is. Other than that, you have different things.
You're on a wrench team basically. You're a repair team. I got you.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically, so it's more like servers and like virtual machines and stuff that we run for the college.
That's pretty easy.
It's a lot. We deploy a lot, and even subscriptions to even manage a lot of those because each desktop for each department has different subscriptions within them. So you got to manage those, and then you got to make sure you have different backups everywhere in case one area goes down. And you got to it's a lot. It's a lot. You're always on go. You're always on call, but it's a very demanding business. If you know how to work with stuff like that, a lot of companies are willing to pay you 6 figures. Like even the average in Wisconsin, the average in Wisconsin is about $94,000-$95,000.
Nice.
What?
Position. That's the average.
Wait. For a wrench experience.
No. For desktop and engineering.
Oh, you said desktop. I'm thinking.
Yeah. No. Not like. Oh, I mean, I would say you can call it a wrench team. I guess.
Yeah, but like back in the day, like when I started doing when I jumped out of desktop, I got into like email server administration and then web applications and stuff. And that's the thing that like when I'm no, like I said, I'm no
We'll get to
expert
you,
in
DYZ or
in
DYB.
infrastructure and all that stuff. And I want to answer that person's question about the boot camp or degree in a second.
I
But
don't take those.
yeah, no. And my take is like, okay, you're pressed for time. Yeah, that one, coding boot camp or comp sci degree. Now like I said, I'm no programmer, but I'd say this like in the interest of time, boot camp. Here's what you do: if you're a self starter, start jumping on projects on GitHub. Like, get your GitHub page built up. This is where I mentioned like career development stuff. You start marketing yourself, and it's counterintuitive to somebody working in security, but you build up your own breadcrumb trail to yourself. So once you get to a point, you don't need to send a resume. You're like, go to my GitHub repo. You have all these projects you volunteer for. So if I'm going back, if I was advising 18-year-olds fresh out of high school that were interested in tech, start a GitHub page right then and there. If you're in a cheap enough state to do it where it doesn't cost much money, start an LLC or S corp, like start a business. So then, and don't make yourself CEO of the company or anything like that. Keep your ego in check. Make yourself a developer for company. Take on side work, volunteer during college. So by the time you finish college, you now have a track record of a GitHub page with 4 years worth of documentation on stuff, which, by the way, companies, when you're interviewing and they're looking at your soft skills, if you're good at documenting stuff and getting your documentation nailed, that's going to stand out.
Yeah, huge.
And you're fresh out of
Go ahead. I was getting excited because that's actually one of the big positives for IT. If you know how to properly document shit, that's a golden skill.
Yeah. And then so like instead of like competing with, so you're finishing college, you're graduate, you're going to apply for a job with somebody that they have a computer science degree, but you've been doing these coding projects. Even if you get a BS degree like in art history or whatever, no offense, and say underwater basket weaving, but you've been doing all these like projects on GitHub or whatever, and then you're building up a rep through those communities and maybe have a blog or something like that. Like I've got a blog. Once you start building that track record, you're now coming out of college. You've been a developer for whatever company you name for 4 years. So you have 4 years experience fresh out of college with somebody else that's also fresh out of college with none of that experience.
Yeah.
Okay, they wrote code or whatever. And yeah, you might get the one person that got a degree from Harvard. But if you're losing your job to a position, if you're losing a position to somebody who went to Harvard, you're probably not in that as bad of a space you think you are.
Actually, that's pretty funny. Here's one reason why. The only reason I went to college is because I just wanted the basic, like I needed practice, and I'm thinking, hey, if they're offering free money, it didn't go as I planned, but that's neither here nor there. One thing that I know working back during like the early 2000s when this stuff started coming up, college is only good if you have money to back you on it. Like if your parents are or you're just getting a scholarship or something, and it's not really going to cost you, I'd say do college. Other than that, this type of stuff, you do not go to college. Like you could go to college, but I'm telling you, when you get out,
$150, you got the certification and bump yourself.
When you get out, like I'm gonna be honest, I used to run with the tech team. Well, not even a tech team. I used to run where we had different skills in technology around the early 2000s.
Yeah.
As a person that was a part of that type of business, I'm not going to be looking for the guy who came from Harvard with, a degree with all of these test scores at 100%. I'm like, okay, I can make an AI for that.
Right.
I don't care.
And they got those A's in a controlled environment with, school deadlines.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. When you're in actual, like, for instance, cybersecurity, what I've learned from speaking to other people, that's one thing they don't have. You are not tested in a live environment.
No.
I became a extremely good software developer when I was doing it because that was my training. Yep. They trained me, okay, if you're actively getting attacked, what do you do?
Yeah.
It's instinctive now. Like if it would happen now, I already know what to do. These people, we didn't know. We thought this was just something. That's why breaches happen. They're not being trained on what to do. They're not tested in live environment where if you lose 12 times, all of that training and everything you have, it's gone. There's no risk.
Yep.
That's the problem. These kids
And
aren't being risked,
yeah,
and they're not taking chances.
and the thing with the school, there's two things, and you bring some really good points on real world experience. So,
Oh yeah,
specifically cybersecurity, it's kind of like that'd be kind of like going to school for auto mechanic engineering a year after the Ford Model T's been released, right? Like 20 years from now, the programs will have matured, but right now they're still learning. Two, the thing you run into, the problem I have with a lot of academia, and I say this as I'm in the middle of like speaking to people about doing a boot camp. The problem with a lot of academia, specifically to colleges, more so than the boot camps, because the boot camps, a lot of them, they may recruit somebody as work professionally. So the colleges, you get people that have, like, think about what it takes to become a teacher at a college. You get your degrees or whatever you do. Most of those teachers in most of those schools have been out of the workforce for a very long time. And even if they are fresh out the workforce, it's something I mentioned earlier about my any caveats with getting advice from me is I might have experience in a handful of industries. Doesn't mean all of them. I've never worked for a law firm. So if you're asking me advice on how to handle problems at a law firm, I don't have the answers. I've never done stuff like forensics, for instance. I haven't really dived that deep in outside of a couple of like challenges and maybe fun competitions and stuff. So the thing you're learning with experience is not just you're learning how to code, but there's going to be different requirements for writing software for a hospital versus for an entertainment company.
Even in this comment right here, DYB lifestyle. Do you know the perfect programming language for the finance industry would be? Python. If you get in depth with Python, like bro, like the kind of things you can do, like algorithms you can set up and build, like it's crazy, bro. Like Python. I'm gonna say like so. It depends because it seems like DYB. You're living a lifestyle where you're traveling, you want to kind of stay in that kind of, I want to be remote type of thing where it's still kind of, I'm assuming if you make money in the stock market, and that's your full-time income, you must be doing a lot of probably day trading, doing a lot of transaction. I'm assuming that's happening. So you're probably used to having a certain lot of cash flow coming in, right? So I would say do something in back-end development. I would start going into that. That would probably be the best start. I mean, it'd be in tech. It wouldn't be in IT se when you're dealing with certain issues, but you're gonna be getting. I would even start learning I would start getting into some coding language because when you start doing is getting your skills and start building yourself up as a contractor. And this is one thing I was talking about with Nick Fury earlier backstage, where I'm starting to see a lot of contractors do this, especially a lot of back-end coders or developers. What they're able to do is set up contracts with different companies, and these are companies that are paying them, want to pay them 6 figures, right? Maybe 100,000 here, 200,000 here for whatever it is they need to do per year.
Oh, that was me and my team. That's what we did. We didn't take. Yeah, we took straight up contracts, and at first it was high middle class people like, hey, I'm scared of this technology. Yeah, we'll give you a price tag for putting something on your son's phone, and then eventually you get a reputation where you're getting approached by Google, Microsoft, Apple. Like we got approached by basically freaking IBM.
Yep.
Literally wanted one of my aliases, and I'm like, I'm not taking that job because I don't know what it's entailed for. No. But yeah, you get good. You get approached.
A lot of the job is very similar in nature what you're going to be doing anyways. So it literally is quick, easy money. As long as you're not doing it with companies that are directly competing, I think you're going to be fine, right? But like realistically, man, that's a way people can like sit back, live in a foreign country, and be making $300,000 a year,
dude.
Just chilling in Brazil, chilling in Colombia. See, this is how you do it. See, when for those guys who came from the Manosphere channel, this is when we try to talk about like, hey, they're when these guys are, I wouldn't say they're lying to you, but like the odds of you making money the way they're doing it, the influencer way, it's there, but it's not a viable, reliable source of income because you're stuck with YouTube. It's not your business, it's YouTube's business. Alphabet owns that, not you, right? So you're stuck with their rules and they can boot you out, so it's not very stable. But if you can start building solid real world skills with IT, and you can still live that lifestyle where you can travel, you can be around the world, and you can figure out how to basically manipulate your income to be making more, right? And even guys who are starting out, think about it. The minimum wage in America is it's still 7.25, isn't it?
Rose to like 8 or maybe 9
Is it?
average.
What's hey guys in the
Wow, that's
chat?
old.
Where is it? I don't even know. Is it 15? Did they finally got the $15 an hour thing passed?
Wow.
Oh, that's still in
Nine
debate.
average.
we still.
Yeah,
Wow, I-
Okay. I thought it was $15 an hour, but
Wow.
I didn't know.
Nah,
Hey, yo,
$15 an hour is a couple of states. Like I think New York is 15. New York
California's getting
City.
closer,
that's
yeah.
not. Whoa, I thought. Damn, bro,
Wow.
this whole because I wanted to say 15 for minimum, but I'm like, I don't know if they changed
Nah,
it.
it's
I think
like
it's still 7.
9.25.
9.25.
Wow.
Average minimum wage
Whoa.
9.25.
Wow. I'm gonna date myself. I was making $4.25 when I got when I started minimum wage.
But I found the programming languages, and it's been years since I've used this, but I'll show it on the camera.
Hmm?
Yeah, so basically, for everyone that wants to get into tech, this is what you want to learn. You see that? Oh, there we go.
Yep. C, HTML, Python, C++,
Yep. See. Yep.
SQL.
Yep.
Yeah.
HTML
Those
is
7
more like web.
languages.
HTML is more like web. C++. If you're
Yeah.
looking to
Well,
get
the
into
reason I would say
gaming, and Java too is a
HTML,
good one for it.
well, the reason I would say these 7 languages is because, for one, most of these languages, I've researched this, these are what's being used on an everyday basis. I don't care if it's from a bank
Yeah.
to a hospital. These are the 7 languages. Like, I actually had to do a bit of research because I'm getting back into tech myself. I'm like, okay, let me see how some of these programs are working, how some of them are ran. I've used these from literally 1999 to 2006. So I don't even need to see the code. I just need to see how does this program or feature work, and I could just deduct what's being used right then and there. That's how much experience
Yeah,
I have.
but the
So
thing is because here's the thing. I know you got the experience, but we got to come at it from the perspective because a lot of these guys that are asking questions, they're trying to get into it. And my thing is like I could just let you know that just getting straight with one and understanding why you're doing that one, right? So for instance, C++ that you brought on, and that's another popular one, but that's more if you're trying to get into gaming. Oh, it's perfect because the kind of language, the syntax you got to learn from that, it's a derivative of certain languages. Java is another one that I would learn because I mean, game developers, they make bank, bro. Bro, come here. You looking at it?
I'll mention this caveat.
Video game
Yeah.
developers, bro. You making a money. I mean, they'll work you. But
Yeah.
you money, bro. Like that.
That's the thing I mentioned at the very beginning. Is like, balance
You
it
know
out.
what I'm saying? So C++ will be because I got guys who I talk to and we talk about this stuff, right? Like, okay, well, what I want to do, if you want to talk about mapping out a solid career in tech with one of these big companies that'll pay you 170 to start, and then whatever you can do off of that. Get into these like go in C++, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get into the more analytical banking, Python is something I would say, hey guys, go learn a little Python. If you want to do web development, CSS is pretty freaking easy. Like CSS, get into HTML. There are different webs you can go into, right? Even one of the big things that you hide in there, Micah, and I love is SQL.
no, that was the language.
Okay,
so that was the language I was referring to because the
SQL.
one thing people don't know about SQL right now, SQL is basically the new
I
C++.
get excited with SQL, bro.
It's
easy. It's easy
for
too to learn.
everything.
SQL is one of the easier languages to start
Oh
with. Too.
yeah, it's super
It
easy.
gets complex, but when you start to figure out what you can do with SQL, it starts to get complex. But like really, it's one of the easier, pretty much easier languages to start.
SQL is what would be considered back then like a data language or
Yeah.
algorithmic. Yeah, it's a data language.
And that's where everything is. If you have a job that's responsible that handles data or doing stuff with data, specifically
everything
SQL,
is in data now.
Everything.
That was the language I was
how
saying.
This chat is going on right now is going through. There's some database. This entire world, like all the
it's all Linux, bro. Linux servers everywhere, bro.
Everything in this world is decided on spreadsheets and duct tape. I said this before. Like, this world is held together by everything. Every like the big economic decision in this world or whatever, at some point hits a spreadsheet or a database. So if you know how those things work, that'll work. to answer the question earlier about the stocks and how to get in tech, here's what I would do. Here's our advice. So you're hearing all this stuff about languages. If you
All
want
right,
to
I
get
say
good
I'll
at a language,
post that.
yeah. If you want to, okay, here's what I would do. Learn how to do something, whatever you're doing in stocks, find a way to do that same task in Python. So one language or another, the thing I learned is like, I start getting good at those things when I find a practical use to solve it. Like going through a Python book and saying like, okay, hello world, if A is this, B is this, that won't help. Like if you want to learn things fast, find a problem you have in your life and solve it using Python. I guarantee you a lot of stuff with day trading, there's probably a way to automate a lot of that in Python.
Here's where I agree with you, and I do a little pushback. I would say you're right. Start with doing like projects of your own, like even just going in and building little niche projects. But I would say it's a good thing to at least start with those basic ones to at least understand like how the syntax works, understand how to like how to basically structure it to make sure, okay, if I'm gonna say hello world, right, I can say, okay, print hello world, and you know, I can understand the difference between putting something in print.
Fair point.
Versus, you know, so you definitely want to know
the
that.
browser
Once
crash.
you get acclimated to it, it starts to become. Now you can start building your own little algorithms. You can start building your own little charts.
Fair point.
For people who are more numbers minded, Python is a great tool for like analytics and really building pretty much.
But
you can build a smart calculator if you wanted.
You know, to your point, you'll start off learning. You'll start off learning like the basics, like you said, hello world and stuff. Those are the basics. But what will get you up to that next level is like, okay, I'll get like a real practical example. You like fantasy sports, like fantasy football and stuff. Build a fantasy football app or thing where you can track certain stats. And I know like for a lot of like websites, you can do web requests that pulls the information down.
Yeah, just scrape it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I put together a tool a while back that would like if you are familiar with Virus Total. So like it's a website. So like when you're doing investigations on like malicious piece of software or a bad URL, you can put this URL in the site and it'll let you know if it's threat intelligence. So
to let you know if it's a good, and it gives you a breakdown and stuff like that.
So you build a tool that hits the API that pulls in and it scrapes the information.
We had that.
Down.
There was a tool that we used when I worked with the state where we tracked malicious emails. So we'll put it in to figure out where. And then like it was a separate tool that they used, which is pretty freaking cool. Like it'll give you the longitude and latitude of where it came from. Like it'll give you the like.
It'll parse out all the headers from the email.
Address. Like, it goes through the full fucking list, and you're reading through this thing. Damn near like you can see if it's a VPN or if they're it's crazy. But yeah, go ahead.
And that sounds like a big example. I'll give you a much smaller example. So you know how in the NFL or just football they have like quarterback ratings, right? That's all. It's a mathematical equation. So I made a simple Python program that would like, okay, enter player's name, enter different stats, and it would spit out whatever their quarterback rating was. So all this stuff with programming, a lot of it is just it's math. It's essentially math. It breaks down to a lot of basic mathematical functions, but much like math, the most complicated math, if you break it down, is a couple of simple things put together, you know, multiply, add, divide, subtract, you know, and
one
add
thing
and doing different things.
That's how
you gotta learn too as well is that you're giving the commands. Like even in like something like Python's, you're setting variables. A lot of things that you're doing, you're setting certain variables. So for instance, your variables could be whatever you make of it. So I could say, hey, A equals, you know, my balls if I wanted to. Like
exactly,
no, you can do that.
You can do whatever the fuck you want. That's how crazy it is, right? So like I've been playing around with like, look, if I wanted to make a little quiz, like you know, I'll be fucking around. So like there's certain things that you can do. Like the possibilities are literally endless, bro. So like I would say it seems like it's a tough thing to get into, but it's like really you just have to get over that learning curve. And then as soon as you get over that curve, you're set, bro. Like you can start doing stuff.
Learned from training people. What I have learned is not that. Here's my experience. I've actually trained people in how to code and stuff. What I've learned with a lot of people, their hurdle is basically, TV media and culture. TV media and culture has them thinking you got to be some mathematical, quickety-quick type of person. Dude, the girl that used to write my algorithms for me after like 2006, because I was just making too much money to do it myself. She could not spell, and she was Chinese. Could not spell, and she was Chinese. She had no idea how to actually, read language. On the other hand, I was paying her, what was it like? Depending on how many algorithms, it was our own little deal, but around $400 a week I was paying her for algorithms that I needed for the various things I was running. Now, most people would be like, well, how could she do that? Because she was shown the process and then she did it on her own way. And that's the problem. People think you got to be no, all you got to be done is shown the basic process, which I will grant academia doesn't show you.
No,
I would say if you
follow a program,
yeah,
and then a curriculum, which is not how you do any type of coding. You follow the information as basic as it is. There is no additional do it this way.
I would say, Micah, just real quick to add to that point, I would say, because I want to get to these little because there's a lot of people asking good questions here, and I think we gotta we all gotta
fire away,
too.
man.
But like, but
ahead.
here's the thing. I think it's just getting over. For a lot of us, it's just understanding the concept of it, right? If you understand, I think for me, just understanding why like this is working the way it is, I think it helps me get over it. So like understanding why do I even need to use Python? Why do I even need to study something like Linux? Okay, well then when you start thinking about why, you start to understand. Oh shit, I'm using systems that run on Linux. I've probably interacted with virtual machines that do that. Holy shit! Like what? Like so you start when you start understanding the practical usage that you've been doing without you even knowing, then you start walking backwards to start learning a lot of this stuff. So I'm seeing a lot of good questions here. But here's the thing, Isaiah Thompson, you put up is a shout out to you, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate a lot of y'all laughing man's in here. Yeah, Isaiah says it's $15 an hour is minimum wage where you're at, and then Laffy Man said it's $16 an hour where you're at. So think about it like this, right? A basic level help desk job, you can get $20 an hour, $21 an hour starting. That's basically as close to customer service as you can. You have to know, like, I would say, like a base level tech. Like that's like like troubleshooting basic applications, maybe helping with software installs. Majority of what you're going to be doing is probably like password resets or
understand what DNS is.
But they'll train you. They'll train you through those. They'll train you through those processes, and you got to be good with ticketing systems like Sharewell or ServiceNow. Like some of these ticketing ServiceNow. Probably they're getting big because
that's a big one,
because they're not only a platforms as a service, they're also a software as a service platform. So they're like really
not just ticketing system. That you're running the whole thing from there. I've worked through with a few different ticketing systems, and that's the thing. Like I've worked and I can do that. I can go on. Feel free to bring me back on for another show. I've got plenty of time now.
But I can hold your thought real quick, because like what I'm planning on doing with this, I think like for a lot of y'all having questions, I think like part of this like channel too, like every once in a while, maybe once or twice a week or something like that, I'll probably just put like a little like maybe we'll just do a show on this, or maybe I'll just do one of the things where I will just walk through some coding concepts, like to go through some basic Python shit. Like Python is kind of where I lean towards. So I'm studying Node.js right now. I'm starting to get into it, but it's not like something I'm like.
I've learned what was it, 35 languages?
Wow,
I think.
Jesus fucking Christ!
Meanwhile, I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I've only dabbled in PowerShell and Python, but I'm working in cybersecurity.
PowerShell.
Well, yeah, you're IT. You don't need to learn.
Exactly.
You're not developing anything.
Exactly. That's
for me though. Here's the thing. For me though, it goes to exactly what you said earlier, Nick Fury. What you said earlier was developing portfolioos, right, for people to see. Like I'm actually like I have a lot of projects that I'm actually developing as a part of that too. So like I have my own, like when you have like your profile set up and then you have and recruiters reaching out to you and they're looking at your portfolio. Bro, this is how you start to demand more money. Even things like building a basic website. If you could do something as building a basic website, it doesn't have to be functional. If it is functional, that's a plus, right?
Mine's
you build
WordPress.
that, you have that as part of your portfolio. You're good. I'm working on, because here's the thing. There are different tiers that I think a lot of people you can graduate to based on your comfortability with leveling up. But you can start with single based apps like calculators, right? That can be like something you can create, or like a basic thing like a website or a single web page. That could be like on the basic level. On the second tier level, you can have apps or web page or web apps that have multi-functions, like a little bit of multi-function, like maybe 2 or 3 different functions. And then maybe another one where it's like a top tier level app where you're having 3, 4, 5 or more different functions. So like it has multiple different things. Now you're starting to mess with REST APIs and things like that. You're incorporating things like that's when you really, bro. That's when people start seeing that. That's when you start demanding more money in the job market, right? Especially when we're going towards a market now where it's more service based and less manufacturer based. So a lot of people who are coming in, and I think somebody here said they were trucking. I got to go back to that comment. You're coming in from the trucking industry, like, right? That this is stuff that's going to be the future. This is stuff that you want to at least start getting a head start on right now. So I like the questions that I'm seeing here. So there's one that says, oh, my bad, you guys are we going in here. Isaiah says, do I need to be good at math? Okay, go ahead.
No.
Go ahead, Mike.
No. All right. So I'll go into the whole math thing. You only need to be good in math if you are doing any type of algorithmic or data languages like SQL. You need to be able to do basic multiplication and division. If you're going into like the other language was Lisp, I would say a bit like the first part of linear integers and stuff like that might be Lisp. If you're doing something with Perl, then unless you're working at like government type of security, probably not, because it does deal with algorithms, but it's going to go deeper into something with hardware or something. So probably not. But most languages, unless you're doing something with algorithms or data, nah, you can knock math right off. Actually, the rest of the languages like Python, Java, C++, HTML, Unix, even Linux, which is being, I think, aren't they trying to make a language for Linux or something? I wouldn't know because I've been out of the loop for years.
Well, Linux has multiple different, like, because you got Ubuntu, you got Kali. There's a lot of different.
But no, what you're gonna have to focus in on code is basically syntax. All computer languages have a certain syntax.
Yep.
And if you can get good with one that has diverging syntaxes, as in it goes into multiple different stages, the rest is just going to be like learning a next level of English. Literally,
it's just literally like learning
it's literally like learning English when you're a kid. That's how it works. It's just difficult now because you're an adult and your neuroplasticity ain't really there, but you can do it. It's literally just learning how to say ABC to where you get to a 12th grade writing level, like what I was at, and just you basically write an entire program or a bot and you sell it for about $1,600.
Yep.
That's how it goes.
Let's get Nick Fury on this question. Do I need
to
be a good typer?
And once again, I'm not a programmer. Like, here's the thing. All the stuff with programming, I would definitely defer to Micah's points because he's done it. When you're on the system side of things, you end up learning code to solve an immediate problem. So it's more utilitarian. Like, I'm in an environment that uses a lot of Active Directory or Windows and Microsoft systems. So PowerShell is going to be really good for me. Python can work, but if I know PowerShell, I can get by and do things. I'm not doing it on the daily. Yeah, I'm working with a lot of different products and systems. Like, I can go on. I worked with a lot of different products, from anything from Microsoft Exchange to a bunch of other ones. So understanding the inner workings of those things helps. To answer Isaiah Thompson's question, no, you do not have to be a good typer. A lot of people I know that I got spoiled. So I started off as a kid. Most normal parents would have their kids doing piano lessons. I was in front of a mechanical typewriter, AQA, and took on three different occasions from middle school and high school. I took typing classes. I'm an anomaly in that fact where I have the keys memorized without even like I didn't even focus on it, and I can tell you like QWRT YUIOP and like just type naturally. Like I don't need a keyboard.
I'm not Nick Fury. I failed my ultra key classes. Okay, so even when it comes to like I'm slow. Like
there was a girl.
I'm like average. I'm like an average typer. So like you don't need to be a good typer.
You don't need to.
Like
I know a lot of people in tech that
because
do this.
I think we don't have like the movie level. Oh, I see this guy in tech field. He's like typing.
I'm an anomaly.
Remember I was saying that earlier. Remember I was saying people see these movies and they think you got to be some. No, you want to know how bad my typing was?
Yeah.
I used to use, you know what Viper is, right?
Viper refers to what system?
Viper is actually a language, believe it or not.
Oh wow, no, I never heard it.
No, I have not heard that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say what type of language it is, but it's a language specifically designed for
the language framework, like a Flutter.
No, it's a security operations language, and it was not designed by a company. It was designed by those different type of people who make vulnerabilities. That's what it was created by. But Viper is a very particular language that you have to be good at typing, because sometimes when you get into a live testing environment against your own bot, you have to be good enough to beat it. I didn't do that. So guess what I figured out how to do? Make very good freaking bots.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you don't have to be good at typing. You just have to be smart enough to outsmart the fucking computer.
Yeah.
That's what, as a developer, that's basically what you're doing. Are you smart enough to create something that, someone that is, more along the lines of IT, really good IT, not help desk IT, can look at and say, hey, we see that most of this works, but you missed something. And then it gets back to me and I'm like, okay, I see how it, where I missed that with what it would interact with. Because a lot of bugs, people don't really know about this. A lot of bugs from software developers, it's not that we did something wrong. It's just there's configuration on the hardware that the hardware changed something. Now we have to make an adaptation.
Or sometimes it can be at the network level too as well. So that's another.
I'm remembering a really good sysadmin story on that very same topic, right? So, long story short, me and a team of people were troubleshooting a problem. This is one of those nights I mentioned where I got off at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning, working a full Friday. By the time we solved the problem, it wasn't the firewall, it wasn't the network, it wasn't SQL. There was a .ini file being referenced. And instead of it was somebody's code or something, right? But instead of an underscore, it had a space there, so we didn't see this thing. And
let me guess, when it got downloaded and integrated into the hardware decided to make the change.
Among that, it was basically like something, whatever code was trying to reference it wasn't working. Yeah. And there was a developer that made a change that didn't loop everybody else in. And so as a result, I think what it was, that file was saved in a different encoding, like UTF-8 or something like that. And so it was, I get it. You know what I'm getting? It's like,
I know what you're saying.
A lot of these problems come down to something like that. So, and that's what I'm saying, like when you're working with systems, there's a lot of those things that come play. Like a lot of my skills, the typing, it's not necessary for my job, but it helps. My learning computer science and the history of, it's not necessary for my job, but it helps from the system side of things. So you don't need to be a good typer. And to your point earlier, you brought up such a salient point about how movies and media have made people think that all these people working these fields are geniuses. Like, okay, Mr. Robot's a really good example, right? You hear all this stuff about these breaches, and you watch all these movies where you'll see the guy, in the dark room with the hoodie, and they're typing really fast.
Let me just say this: it takes far longer to hack into some of these. I know some of the shit is actually like on point, but it's just like, hey, bro, You know
No,
damn
but
well that
what
phishing
ends up happening is
campaign
like
you
if they were,
launch is going to take
yeah,
like months, even sometimes years before something like that gets triggered. So
yeah, yes and
Even a
no,
guy like me, like I
yeah,
could get into things, but the
yeah,
thing people don't realize is that that takes research to
right,
actually do.
lot
yeah.
of
It's a
research.
lot of research, and then
Yeah.
yeah, that moment
Go
of
ahead, Nick. Go
genius,
ahead, Nick.
there was a lot of research of that. But what ends up happening, like if you were to take one of these TV shows and do based on real world scenarios, you get the hacker guy. They're gonna go in. Oh wait, that person's password is password, or you just push enter. I
Yeah,
remember when I was a kid, we'd prank call. I would do prank calls and stuff as a kid, and I didn't understand what a modem was at the time, but I noticed like, wait a minute, this computer makes it's like you can call people from the computer. Me and my friends started dialing random numbers. Next, you know, we instead of somebody answering on the other end of the speaker, it was wait a minute, it's like a no like a there's different noises, and then some terminal popped up with like a message of the day thing. I'm like, oh geez, we didn't know what this was. I'm like, what if we just push enter? We pushed enter, and then we got in. And I'm like, oh, let's turn this off. This is probably not good.
yeah.
That's not genius. That was a lot of things. It probably wouldn't it definitely wouldn't happen again. I hope to this day. But there's a lot of stuff out there that you'll find has like out of the box settings for things, like a lot of factory settings, like your password might be password, like your home routers, for instance. And you'll go to a company, not necessarily a lot of your big ones, although they can be susceptible, as you notice with Equifax and other breaches, where it's something a software update should have happened, or a misconfiguration happened, where it's like you see these movies where this person breaks binaries and bypasses certain routers or whatever. But in a lot of cases, like, oh, they're using the
Or
same
SQL
password.
injections.
Yeah, they're doing all the sophisticated stuff when sometimes it's like, oh, it's just, oh wait, let's see. This person's email address is like, I'll use an example, the Ashley Madison breach that happened a few years ago. So
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty certain you probably find, and this is just a hypothetical scenario, and it could be wrong, saying that for legal reasons. You could find an email address on there that might be somebody that was having an affair was using a work email. Coincidentally, maybe they're using that password somewhere else. Oh wait, they are using that password somewhere else. Next thing you know, you're in another place. And sometimes attackers take that approach. It's not like, yeah,
No, I had a lady who like one of our faculties, she got convinced by one of these so it started out as a phishing email, right? So
yeah,
they definitely tried to make it look like it was official the institution.
yeah,
And she was able to click. It was like a Norton. They got her through like a Norton. It was a
yeah,
Norton phishing thing, and she ended up
yeah,
clicking the link, and they called her, and they got as far as to the point of installing like we call it a remote software
or
tool. I don't know.
a
I forgot
Trojan,
which
yeah.
one it was. I think they
Oh, like
you know, like a team viewer or
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
it wasn't team viewer, it was another one. It was it'll come to me, but she had that
yeah,
installed. And right off the bat, it was just like the guy. She was asking questions. Then they got twitchy, and it was what it is. And we're sitting there telling her like, "Yo, lady, yeah, bro, Norton doesn't do that. Norton doesn't need to have you
no,
install a freaking remote access
yeah,
software to go ahead and get." So we had to actually take the laptop, deactivate it, and then basically send it off to security guys to get it taken care of. But yeah, it's like, lady, you got to get your ass in here right now. Like,
yeah,
what do you mean? What is on there?
easy,
And that's
yeah,
why we have to be like, you have to be careful with people who have, and some of these faculties like we
for sure.
take their admin rights right off. We pull it
Yeah,
right there. So
Easy's
now
looking like he's
you have
getting
to
glazed over
you have to
here.
call up
Yeah,
to go ahead and get your permissions to install applications, because this is it like stuff. And imagine them getting access, and that's like a company owned machine.
yeah,
Imagine them getting access to the files that she has access to, her logins of the classrooms, the students' profiles. You know, they're all the. It's crazy how
dude, yeah.
breaches can easily happen. So, and
Hmm.
one thing I also want to mention is that we were focusing too much on like the programming side of things, and yeah,
Mm.
of course, on the programming side of things, you can make a shit ton of money, back end, front end, whatever you want to do. But like also in other ITs, you can find viable careers that are stable within fields like network, fields like desktop, fields like even field support, like even things that are out there. If you like to go out and get like people who work for Spectrum or it's the internet service that we have out here in Wisconsin, right? That they have a huge field support team that go in and put cables in and install shit. They're making six figures. Some of them are on the higher end. So like, especially when you're talking about big projects, like
and that's something I want to bring up too. Like, that's what I want to bring up too. A lot of people, I see this in a lot of different tech, getting into tech kind of groups and things, and people will be like, I want to go work for a FANG company, blah, blah, blah. No. So what they wanted to do is go work for a FANG company 20, 30 years ago. Because like in the same thing with a lot of people when I was in the military. Yeah. And not just that, but they have this idea that it's Apple and super innovative and stuff. Like I said, if you wanted that kind of work, you wanted to work at Apple 20, 30 years ago, not today.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a ton of bureaucracy. There's plenty of like small to mid-sized companies. If you're wanting to go really far in the space, and if you're wanting to become an influencer type or high up on there, you want to be working at one of those small companies and turn it into an Apple or a Facebook or whatever.
Oh yeah, like
you don't want Facebook today. You wanted Facebook like in 2005. That's when you wanted to work at Facebook. Because you would have been doing some real bleeding edge stuff.
Yeah, like what I'm doing now, I'm basically like, there's two things I need. I need to find the actual integrated environment that doesn't have spyware from a company. And then I also need to get a bot environment because I want to join a person I used to go to college with. Yeah. She's working for a new start tech company that's in the local area. And I'm like, okay, what are you guys trying to do? And she just basically said, they're trying to get into this, cell phone and mobile tech systems operations. And I'm like, oh shit, that's right up my alley. Because that's how I started. I started by making, software for different types of systems, because a lot of people don't know back then, your entire operating system, because it was still pretty new, would sometimes just completely crash. And you had to go find a copy. Guess what I had? 49 different copies.
So what do you call it? Like refreshing, like a refresh, like a system refresh. So like if they had like, because I know what you're talking about. Because like we would have laptops if they would come in, and let's say they were out of, like, let's say we have like a faculty that take it off, like they're off camp. They've been off campus for like 2 years now because of the pandemic. Some of them like work from home is a normal thing now. So they've been off campus for years, and they haven't used the laptop that we've issued them. It gets pulled off of our network because our system doesn't talk to it anymore. Right? It comes in something complete. So we have to like stick a stick in there and then refresh the whole thing. I know what you're talking about. That's huge.
Yeah,
that's
huge.
Yeah, cell phones. Yeah, that's huge, man. Like, you don't really, like I said, the technical stuff. A lot of stuff is on the job. I think one of you guys stated that like universities, they don't keep, like, listen, a lot of these colleges, they don't keep up with this stuff anymore, man. Like they're not as fast as these companies are willing to train you. It's almost more lucrative to get a certification and then go into the workforce and then get trained for that particular situation. And some people I'm hearing right now, especially in the past stream that we did on the other channel, someone I think put in the comment section that they took a Udemy course and then were able to get like a contract job at a data center somewhere. That's it. Sometimes it's as easy as that. Sometimes it's as easy as that. If you prove that you have some kind of knowledge, IT is the world is so starved with like knowledgeable IT people, right? For knowledgeable IT people right now, it's not even funny. If you have just any base level knowledge, you're getting a job starting out $21 an hour.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like,
certain certifications, you can go from 21 to 25. From 25 to 27, from 27 to 28, from 28 to 31, from 31 to 35, from 35 to 41, from 40. By 40, you're already at six figures.
And the thing is, and this whole six figures thing, like, I'll get to the background of how that happened with IT. So I worked in it long enough to see how stuff began. But like this whole thing with the six figure thing, a lot of people thinking they can get it out of the gate. Like right at their 22. Here's the deal. If you were already talented enough to get six figures out of the gate, you didn't need to go to college. That's a very, very small percentage of people that would have been that talented enough to go, which they wouldn't have gone to college in the first place. And to that point I mentioned earlier, that's where you start building up your portfolio of what your skills are and documenting that stuff, because then you do have a track record, and you're not going to make six figures out of school unless you know somebody who knows somebody at at whatever company, or you're starting up your own. But in that, if that's the case, if you were able to make six figures fresh out of college, then you probably didn't need to go to college anyway. And you probably would have been in the right positions anyway. But going back to how the stuff was started, IT, and why it's such an abundance. So, like, if you go back, say, I started off when I was in the Navy, like in the late 90s, so like 98 or so. And civilian jobs at the time, computers were still coming out of the fad phase and having practical use for work. And what would end up happening is you'd find that one person in the office that might have been playing solitaire, and because they're playing solitaire, or they're able to open the DOS prompt. I date myself here. The whoever's running the company's like, oh, you're now the new computer guy. Or in a lot of cases, for a lot of these little small companies with maybe 30 people or less, or like let's just say less than 100 people. For those really small companies, it was like, oh, you're in charge of finance. Well, you're the new IT person now too. Fast forward about 10-ish years later, you had people that were like learning how to hack things and do different things. Some of those people became security professionals through a lot of different means. They might have been arrested. They might have done something on accident. In fact, if you're interested in cybersecurity, there's a podcast called Darknet Diaries. I highly recommend you listen. It's really good stories about a lot of this stuff.
Most of them were arrested. Trust me on that.
Yeah, especially back then, because there weren't schools for that stuff back then.
If you were a government menace before anyone even realized, some of these dudes fucking hacking these institutions, bro, like teenagers.
People
didn't have pen
testers
tester
boy
university
geniuses,
back then.
dog. They're out here. They're out here.
You had to be good. Like, that's the era I come from. Back then, there was no training. Guys,
there weren't schools.
No, there was no school. You either found a guy, or you were stupid. Like, there are dudes to this day I know. You're not fucking finding them. I don't care what you throw at them. Yeah, they are not being found.
Yeah,
to this day.
And fast forward, say 10 years, like early 2000, like 2010 or so. Not 2010, a little further back.
Yeah,
you get people like, okay, you know how to edit your MySpace page. You're our new web developer. You are a new security person. You know how to lock stuff
sometimes.
Really and that's how a lot of people back then were being picked up that way.
If you troubleshoot a software, sometimes you're the guy.
Yeah. And by that nature, if you're that person at the company who does this stuff, you all of a sudden become the de facto, you inherit the role of security. So fast forward as stuff gets more serious and real with all the stuff like social media coming up, and like not just social media, but just technology in general. If you remember, if you're remembering YouTube in its early days and other gaming networks, things like that, it had scheduled maintenance downtime. The thought of that it's impossible to conceive that notion now. But back then it was still, everything was still kind of mature. That's why I say, like, if people are selling a cybersecurity degree, they may a lot of people there that are teaching are probably coming from academia and not dealing with real world. Like, I'd say by the time I'm in retirement years or out of the workforce and teaching out of school, which may be a long-term goal of mine, being a teacher and stuff.
That's pretty cool.
By then, it might be mature enough, because I've worked in IT and security and seen a lot of stuff over the years. A lot. And that being said, though, once I'm in that for a few years, I'm going to be out of date with whatever's going on in the world. It's like if I think about, like,
No. That's a good way to put it. Like, because you're also going to be educating, or what kind of teaching. Because I would say, my opinion is, I think if you're going to go into that, are you going to do more like digital type teaching, or like, because at least you can like create courses and create groups and communities, right?
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing.
Stay up to date with the community around you.
Yeah, and somebody actually did. Somebody reached out to me about doing a couple training opportunities. Actually, a couple companies did, and I'm kind of exploring it now. And I tell them this, like, because I'm very cognizant of what boot camps and things look like, and answering that question earlier about boot camp or school. And I'm like, here's what I do: go work at a small company or at companies, and then wait for them that get to a point where you work for one that has a tuition assistance program. Then you go to school on their dime. But back to what I was saying about the school thing, I like teaching with a real world perspective. I don't like this idea of like, okay, just follow the stuff in the book and everything's gonna be fine. And I've told both times I've gone on these interviews, I'm like, look, I don't have a problem teaching this stuff, but I am going to be very transparent. If they have a question, they're like, what do you think about this and this? I'm not gonna sell them lies, because it's not just caring about students and stuff. It's also the fact that at some point I'm probably gonna work with some of these people. Like this is tech is a small world. Security is like real small. When
Oh God.
like I can tell you a lot of those secure books in security read. Like I probably haven't met the guy that wrote this book in person yet, but I can tell you for a fact. If you go to sites like No Starch, I know the guy. I've known a lot of authors from No Starch. In fact, the guy that runs the company, I've met a couple times. A lot of that stuff, I can name names in security. I've met quite a few people in as small as the world as it is, and it's just like that with IT. Like if you're in diving deep in Python and going in the community, you're gonna next thing in a short time you're gonna know the who's who of that community.
That's
So it's
true.
real
Yeah.
small. So like if you are I have friends that are sales engineers for different tech companies that sell like firewalls and things like that. They all know each other. So you're teaching
Eventually,
somebody one
dude,
thing.
like what I want to
Yeah.
do too, because it's interesting you mentioned that. Let me answer this question real quick.
Yeah.
Duke, is the Earth flat or round? I believe that we are a 3D projection of a 2D plane. Hopefully, that answers your question. I think that I think
Jesus.
that realistically, here's the thing. I would say. My goals for this within the next 3 to 5 years of experience that I'm looking to garner. Eventually, I'm going to go into like contracting, like starting like an actual like contracting firm where I have a bunch of other guys where I can go ahead and recruit and then basically put out to other companies. Basically, because then you can get the training aspect taken care of out of that. You can get the placement aspect
I've done that before.
taken care of that, where you're placing people in a different organizations, and plus they make bank, bro. I'm
Dude.
looking at some of these guys like,
It-
yo,
Dude, when you start getting
talk about-
contracts, I shit you not. Like
Yeah,
every time I hear everyone saying they want to make 400,000 or something, I'm just like, I've done contracting before. No, you don't. You do not want to be at that price tag with that amount of workload.
No.
You will kill yourself.
It's
you
crazy.
will murder yourself.
There's, that's the
90K,
thing.
I'm happy.
Yeah, and that's the thing I
90K,
mentioned
I'm
too
happy.
with all the work and stuff, and where I definitely have needed to work on the work-life balance thing. At some point, you're making so 6 figures, okay, fine, but like at some point, there's going to be a diminishing return. Like, okay, yeah, you can make another $20,000 a year, but you're going to be working another 30 hours a week to do that.
Oh yeah,
And it's going to be detrimental to your health. So like I live a pretty simple life, and I don't have kids or anything. So there's a lot of flexibility I have, but with that, I don't have like a bunch of, I don't buy a bunch of things and have like a bunch of, I'm not the type of wear jewelry and stuff. And, a lot of people will say what do you do and stuff are fun. Like, you're not going to find me at like some club or something. I'm not that guy. You don't find me. I might go to a couple of small Cheers kind of dive bars. I can relate some parts of Wisconsin. I've been up to like Milwaukee and even as far as Sheboygan.
Milwaukee's a beast, dog.
Man, if only I was 21 up there, but it's probably good. I was in Great Lakes at the base for about a year or so. So
nice.
Yeah, I know the area a little bit. And
you can never catch me going to Milwaukee. Even back then, I'm like, I don't want to be exposed
make sure
to
you
much.
put a boot on your car because they'll grab it.
Bruh.
I'm talking about the drug market. I'm less caring about the boot.
Dude, I'm in California.
Auto theft is a new thing up there right now. It is crazy. The auto theft in Milwaukee is insane right now, bro. Like, people like, I think there's like I don't know what kind of economy is running underground within Wisconsin and down south. I don't know what state, and then back up to Minnesota somehow. But like, there's something running around here, and I don't know. But these cars, the rate they're getting taken, it's alarming, bro. They're not playing. Yeah, Milwaukee's got a problem.
Yeah, but yeah, like I told
people, shootings aren't getting better either.
No, they aren't. No, they aren't getting better out here in California with all our wonderful laws we have about that stuff.
Oh, you want to know something crazy? Shootings have returned to New York City.
What?
Yeah, no,
world's turning.
Not just New York City, but New Jersey too.
Yeah,
I'm like, I have this news app I look at sometimes, and I'm like, another person has been shot in the state.
Dude.
What the fuck?
Is it that police signal app?
No, it's called like news. Hold on, because I got it open somewhere. It's I forget
Visit
what it.
says you all need
Yeah.
to teach us this, probably on Google as well. Absolutely, hey, dude. This is what this channel is all about, right? We talk about conspiracies, is politics. We talk about tech. We talk about everything, bro. This is really the channel where we can like we because a lot of times people think, oh well, Duke, all you do is talk about other people, and it's like, bro, like literally when I tell you there's a channel just to like clown people, it's a channel just to clown people,
Yeah.
but like there's another channel for serious shit. I mean, we just spent 2 hours talking about Russia and fucking how to break into tech. That's crazy. And where the other people at, right? And I'm glad you're realizing that when we talk about shit that matters, no one shows up. So what does that tell you? It exposes what I've been clowning these niggas on for a long time. You
Hey,
show
man.
them like, hey,
And
bro, let's have a conversation about real
yeah,
shit. No, so you
I'm
understand the
all.
people who are here for drama and people who are here for the real shit, and you understand that like this is the mindset. The real agenda is the algorithms that funnel views towards the more dramatic and the nonsensical stuff. But like honestly, I like it like this because from this we can build a completely different economy, or not economy, community off of this. So it is what it is. So like with this channel, my plan is to not only educate you about the real conspiracies that are actually going on to a certain extent, but like we're also going to talk about real world applicable skills that you can utilize to become successful, because it's gonna like, because one thing to talk about like the manosphere and shit like that, and like the kind of the get rich quick schemes they get you on,
Oh,
but they're
them niggas
actual
is boring.
yeah, they're routes to
They're boring.
make
They're
a
Yeah.
boring.
comfortable living as an average guy, as quote unquote. Like the way to be comfortable, the ways to be fine, right? There are other ways to do it. It just takes a little bit of work and a little bit of effort.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. There well, and what I'm planning on doing is maybe at one point, because I got a couple more stories I gotta put out here first, but we'll even have like mini boot camps where we'll just do some Python. We'll learn some stuff with Azure. I don't know. Well, I'll have to map it out because I got to figure out where to even start with a lot of y'all, because it seems like you guys are beginning. So we'll do stuff with a little bit of back end development, but then we'll start doing stuff on like just concepts and maybe like skill based learning. And then obviously we're having dope conversations with experienced people to
Mm.
go ahead and get that going. Because I think if you just hear more of the conversations, it'll help you guys map out an idea of what will gravitate towards, what you guys would gravitate towards essentially. So yeah, we'll
Actually,
talk more about that. Go ahead, Micah.
I have an idea, and sorry for being, the one that has experience doing like group projects. If they really want to learn, I've been mulling over this myself for a long time, and I was just going to do it myself when I was financially comfortable enough, because it's going to take time. I was thinking of, I know this is going to be not hard, but it's like, well, damn, merging a YouTube clone with a Facebook clone. I've been mulling it in my head over and over and over and over, and I'm like,
Like what specifically, like, are you what are you trying to combine? Because I see what you're
oh
talking
no,
about. But like,
basically the UI of both Facebook and YouTube so that it's configurable. You know, that's what I've been trying to. It's just the last time I made a website was in 2007.
yeah, but like
So,
because like Facebook, they use a bunch of different like frameworks, and they use a bunch of different
oh, I know
like
that
stuff
part, but
interwoven. So like even like I'm not saying like you can clone Facebook, but like it's just like what is the feature? Because if you even look at Facebook, you can kind of say, well, Facebook is kind of does what YouTube does, because if you think about most social platforms are kind of gravitating towards the similar features anyways. So it's like you can kind of say that. So it's got to be like something unique. Like are people building like are people able to post like walls, or like how so are you like, because
yeah,
what makes
that's what I
Facebook really
was.
unique is like the ability, the way the way we're able to gather data on the audience, right? Because that was their big shtick, like what they were able to do.
Oh, that's
So
still their big stick. They lose
it
that.
is, but like YouTube's case is more advertising. So like because you understand, like Facebook, the data that they collect is a lot more in depth on demographic than YouTube has. You can even tell by the YouTube analytics versus like certain. I
No,
don't know
no,
if
that's
you.
true. That's true.
Yeah, so you
No,
gotta
you're right.
like,
You're
so
right.
I gotta figure out what you're trying to put together. But like cloning even a YouTube like app, that's a feat. So that's something. That's
Yeah, I was thinking of doing it myself. It's not that I can. It's just, as you know, even the guy with my experience is going to take time.
Yeah.
So I
you
was
should see
thinking,
you see the app I'm working on right now. 10 plus functions, bro. Like, bro, I gotta like there's so much shit
uh,
going into it. It's not even funny. Like this is actually a project that I started out because I was pissed off about like having to wait to get my car fixed one time that it was broke. So it has to do it has to do a lot with the automotive
no,
industry. So I'm like really,
that's
bro, that shit was such a pain
no,
point
that's
for
where
me. So
ideas come
for me, it's
from.
gonna
Like,
help with like streamlining bookings and like streamlining people being able to get immediate work done no matter where they are. So it's on demand type
no,
shit. So
that's how great
yeah, so
ideas
it's a lot of
come
stuff to go.
from.
I got web pages, backend admin dashboard, and I got to get a REST API set for that. Like, there's a lot of. I've been working for about like almost a year and a half now, so
Wow.
it's a
I'm gonna
lot.
have to
But the
give
thing
you
is, once
my
I'm
other
done,
email.
I own the entire thing. I own the entire software,
Sweet.
the entire source code. It's all mine, and I can just basically like license it out for whatever I want. So I'm having like both business and consumer get access to this program too as well.
Mm-hmm.
So on the business end, it can be either mobile guys or guys who are in who actually own shops, and then there's lots of stuff that's going to be coming down the pipeline. But I started it, and the more I started to add on to it, it was just like, damn, bro. Yeah, bro, fuck it. Like, what if this? So it's all about problem solving and like solution solving. But like, yeah, there's gonna be a lot. But yeah, I think having conversations where we talk about this stuff and having you guys even get to the point where you can build your own little Facebook, build your own little social media app, clone it. Because cloning, that's like one of those top tier projects that I've been talking about. You remember the low tier, mid tier, top tier? The cloning is like considered a top tier project. So how can I get you guys instead of like, this is what the manager should be talking about. Instead of saying, I got banned out of YouTube. All right, what we gonna do? How are we gonna because you can build your own YouTube. I mean, it takes a lot of work, but you can do it. I mean, a lot of the code's already out there. You just gotta do certain things. So
Wait. Shonen Beast, he's like, what are REST APIs? What the hell is that?
So first of all, APIs in general are like basically a collection of how do you explain it? Like how do
I forget. I forget what
it's not even so it's basically how you can it's like immediate functions, like how you can get quick.
So like if you wanted to make something that works on your connection to your iPhone, so Apple
Yeah.
has what's called it's application programming interface. So it lets you let's just say you have some code on the side you want to make a thing and you want to talk to thing over
It's
here,
like
a device
quick
or a website.
function. It's built for like a specific thing, like it's pulling a specific function, specific data across. So if you want to get like data on like, let's say I want to know where this driver is right now on this location. Boom.
Yeah.
That's all APIs. So
or something like let's just say if you wanted to like NFL.com, for instance, if you wanted to make an app, like a fantasy football app, you would connect to the NFL.com site, not like through a web browser, but you do it through code. The code would talk to NFL's API, and from the NFL end, their API might give you certain information statistics. So what you're doing with your program is you're using an API key or whatever to talk to that web application or whatever to do stuff. If you wanted to, like Facebook, if you wanted to make a automatic like button using, say, a buzzer in your hand or whatever, right? Just a regular buzzer. If you were to talk to the Facebook API, like you have a program that says, okay, using Facebook's API, do this thing. Like the liking a thing is like essentially a function. When you click on that like button, that's doing a thing. So what you're doing with the button is you want to be able to like something just by pushing a little buzzer or something like this, right? Like a remote. So when you push that button, it's going to talk to Facebook's API, pulling down the like function, and then it does the thing on Facebook. A lot of companies with APIs, sometimes they'll throttle it, so they don't want you to send so many request things. And that's what how a lot of bots and stuff work. Is they're talking to, say, Twitter's API or other APIs. A buddy of mine made this cool tool. We were using Slack, and he wrote this tool that would it would go to Pornhub and pull random comments. So when you type something in the Slack, type a command in the Slack channel, it would respond with a random comment from a Pornhub site.
That's
So that's just
I
funny
can
to
only
me.
foresee problems happening with that.
No, yeah,
What I
that's why
thought
I
you
was
were
a
gonna
private
touch
site
upon,
channel.
what I thought you were gonna touch upon is like how like some companies actually they will license out their codes for their APIs too
Yep.
as well. Like Uber
Yeah.
is a great one that does that, and
Yeah.
Lyft is another company that does that. Actually, there's some of the ones that I'm actually thinking about incorporating in my situation too
Yep.
as well, especially like the driver on demand location for where
Yeah.
your tech is gonna be at the time. They have like their APIs. They actually have you can license
Yep.
it and incorporate that as part of your application too as well.
Yeah.
So when you get into the tech world and you get into the development world, you start to realize that a lot of things are actually shared amongst different
Mhm.
platforms and put together. You
Everything.
realize
Yeah.
how connected a lot of tech really is. So that's why it's
Everything
so
is
easy to
shared.
call out a fool like Lord Marquardt talking about. Listen, a brother can tell a white label app from a fucking app, bro. Your boy
Yeah.
can like just like so like you gotta understand like there's certain people that you
Mm.
know like I ain't even gonna go there, bro. This ain't that channel.
Yeah.
Listen, go ahead.
But
No,
yeah,
you brought up a point earlier when we were talking about all the geopolitical stuff and how and this is what a lot of big software companies do. Instead of competing with a product, they just buy it. Like Visio, it's a program that you can make diagram stuff with.
Yep.
That's Microsoft just bought the product and it's kind of like it's not like a part of Microsoft Office, it's a whole separate thing. But they were another company at some point, and Microsoft just bought the company. So a lot, just like with big governments, a lot of big companies, instead of like competing with an idea, you'll notice how like a lot of features on say either Android and or Apple or other things where you're like, well, I can do this way. I don't need this thing or any sort of weird workaround. Within 4 or 5 years, that ends up being an out of the box feature on say Apple's iOS or phones. And they're just like, why have competition when I can just buy the people making the product?
Exactly.
basically.
Companies
And
are finding it easier to just kind of like cooperate.
Yeah, they just
and
merge
compete.
and absorb each other. Yeah.
We're seeing this, and this is what builds like monopolies. We're seeing this like merging and cooperation now versus competition. There's a lot less competition,
Yeah.
meaning in less competitive prices, less and you start to notice like a lot of platforms are looking kind of similar. Like even Instagram is kind of looking a
Dude.
little similar to TikTok now. Come on,
Yeah.
so I'm saying a lot of
all
platforms
those
are taking
shorts. Yeah, the shorts.
those shorts,
In fact,
reels.
yeah. Remember when TikTok used to be called Vine?
yeah. The Vine used to be a thing. Yeah, that
Dude.
was a thing too.
Yeah.
A lot of Vine
yeah,
stars gravitated towards TikTok and
Yeah.
they made a killing because it was same
Yeah.
kind of a Shonen Spirit. Yeah, we're gonna definitely live this live stream up. And then as it says, I love the intellectual convos, but we all need a little drama in our life too. I try to keep it balanced, but it's the people that don't understand the other side to it.
Yeah.
They think that like all we do is talk about drama because a cheap cop out. Realistically, the smartest thing you can do is talk about dumb shit sometimes. It is just what it is.
No,
like,
it's
bro,
yeah,
like
and that's why I said I appreciate your
I gotta
channel.
deal with on my daily basis.
Yeah.
It's fun coming in. Like that's why I say when I say I genuinely have fun coming on here clowning it, is because
Yeah.
like the work could get annoying and stressful sometimes. Like I just
Dude.
gotta like sometimes
oh,
like
I could imagine.
Thursday for
I
me
could
it was pretty
imagine.
stressful. I wouldn't even lie, bro. I was pretty stressed
Yeah.
out Thursday. It was a pretty big like, bro.
Yeah, I
like
could imagine every
Yeah.
day you're just going and you go into work. Like I have actually pretty good job compared to what I did in my action. When I was really making money, and it wasn't bad because I was the sole developer and I decided when my stuff was ready. But I could imagine IT work. I've met dudes that is like I need to literally just sit in my house for 4 months.
Dude,
'Cause they can't-
I've been that dude.
oh
Like I
my
said,
God, dude.
I said at the
Oh
very
my
beginning
God.
about the whole work-life balance, and I've worked plenty of 50, 60-hour weeks. There are times I've gone into the office at 4 o'clock in the morning
man.
to do maintenance or fix a thing that broke.
God damn.
And so,
luckily,
like,
and
that's what I say, like,
I have a set schedule, so my
yeah, that's why I like
My
your
limit-
channel.
But, like,
Your
I
channel
know
in
getting into
particular.
security's more on call. A lot of the shit's more on call work.
Yeah, there's
when
still
you-
lots of
couldn't-
stuff that goes on during the week, but yeah, and I'm definitely like, I've been on call this weekend, but it's nowhere near as stressful as working in IT on call. Like, I've seen this, right? Like, you will see one thing you notice on the IT side of things is how quickly people digress into less sophisticated people. So
Yeah,
I
people
worked at a
get-
place
you
that
get
had like
pissed.
I worked at a place with like literally people with like multiple PhDs and high STEM degrees, like real smart people, right? Heaven forbid email stops working at midnight. for some of these people. Like I describe email as the lymphatic system, especially like before all the cloud days when when you had to go to a data center and all this stuff. Email is like the lymphatic system. Most people don't know what the lymphatic system is until they get sick, and then all of a sudden, oh my god, my lymph nodes swollen, blah blah blah. But yeah, to the point, and I said this in the email and when I was talking to you before we got on this chat, like I like your channel because it's not just one topic. The same reason I like Admin Preach, because they're not just talking about the same thing, everything. And balance is important.
Can I ask you a question? Hold that thought real quick, because here's the thing. It comes with even when I'm noticing, because I think they started doing stuff at a time where YouTube was a lot less, was a lot more lenient with like multi-style content, and the algorithm wasn't really set to like try to be as focused as it is right now, where it guides people towards specific things that they're likely to view. Before, it's more like people were able to get away with talking about different things, right? But now I feel like if you start talking about different types of content within the videos, it does within the same channel, it doesn't flow properly. You're forced to create a different channel because of that, to have to funnel a certain type of traffic, right? So I don't know. I don't know if it's for like category wise or however it is, but I'm starting to notice that now.
Yeah, and I think to your point correctly, like with all the algorithms and stuff, a lot of this stuff is automated depending on how you interact with YouTube. I notice in particular, my YouTube recommends can change on my moods. There's some point I had just broken up with a girl, and this is like in a non-Olympic year, I'm getting men of culture, although recommended like women's track. I'm not seeking this stuff out. I think I probably searched for track once or twice, and next thing you know, like, hey, look at my recommendations. Time to look at some pole vaulting.
Yeah.
But to that point, like, for I've only got a handful of videos on my channel, and I'm kind of focused on like, aside from work stuff, like I'd rather have small content. I'm not like worried about, I'm not making YouTube my primary. So I'm like, I'll just dump stuff on. It's just more of my portfolio and how I'm going to work, and just getting better at video editing and speaking on a mic and not cutting off people in podcasts and stuff and talking. So these things are all helpful.
That's a skill I got to learn.
Dude, same here. I know I've been doing it during this chat and umming my way through it. Some stuff.
I think you guys been pretty good. Shonen Spirit says so. Its function is to send data back and forth between your own computers and the other computer servers. No, it doesn't. It's not even computers. It's more like applications. Like you can do it. It's not limited to computers. I don't know what you mean by even computers, but like it's just like different. Framework is just basically applications. It could be like web.
It could be a computer. It could be a pool of computers.
Not really, but yes, it does. It does do direct functions. Like if you have if you want to pull a certain function, that's the easy way I explain it. It's like a direct function type of like scenario for me. It's like, all right, what if I wanted this scenario? Like if a customer decides to log in here, I wanted to be able to track or put a service here. I wanted to be able to pull up and figure out where the what do you call it, the service technician is going to be, right? So wherever on the Google map it goes, there's a API sending data back and forth, letting the user know on the application where that person's is at all times. So how your Lyft app works, like your Lyft ride, right? When you can see the driver going through or any kind of delivery app, it's the same. It's all APIs going back and forth, talking to different systems to get back to your application, right, in real time. So
I can think of another real world example of that. So like there, how they have those earthquake notification apps.
Yeah.
So here's how it works. Simple. Like you can make. In fact, if you had the access to the resources to build an app, whether it be through Apple or Android's tools, you can make some. Yeah,
I gotta learn that too.
For sure. Yeah, and what you would do is you'd write an app that would connect to I think it's the U.S. Geological Service. You connect to their site and use their API to pull their information. So when they get notification of earthquake, using their API, you're pulling it down to your device. That's essentially what you're doing. It could be a server. It could be a pool of servers. It might be another web application.
But it could even be an app you're creating. You can even put a random attachment saying, okay, now you're going to get random earthquake notifications.
Yep. Yeah.
Whatever happens over there, it sends right back to your phone. It's that simple. It actually streamlines, so you don't actually have to go in and write specific code for that function. It's already streamlined for you. And you can create APIs yourself.
That's actually what I was going to do. Like, remember I said I was going to make the clone and see how to merge them. Basically, that's what I'm thinking of doing. I'm basically going to use, the API, and then something else to do with framework. That's a different type of function, but that's what I was basically going to do. I was going to create either some type of AI or, a very sophisticated bot to basically clone both websites. Then I basically have both websites in some type of VM or, some type of environment. Then I'll work on it from there. That's basically what I was thinking of. But yeah, that's basically what they do.
You know what?
APIs are basically
I think the first thing I'm gonna show y'all, like real talk, like when we do the next tech episode on this channel, I think the next time I'm gonna show y'all how to set up a virtual machine. I think that'd be easy. The easiest thing, how to set up
that's
a
easy.
Yeah,
easy
yeah,
virtual
handy.
machine. I think that'd be the best
Yeah.
intro to tech, and then we'll go in, look at the virtual machine step by step, see what you can do in it, and I think we'll use probably Ubuntu, see what's going on in there, and then just like you guys can check it out, so then you guys understand and get familiar with virtual machines, right? And then when you get into IT environment, I think VMware is kind of the big enterprise one. A lot of big enterprise uses.
Yeah.
But
No,
you
you're
start
using
start
VMware.
understanding virtual machines and stuff like that, and then we can even because there's stuff that I know right now, and I work with a lot of Azure systems, so like deployments and stuff like that. So I can show you guys how to manage servers. I can show you guys how to even like some of these like enterprisal skills because you need to know some economic skills. So for instance, if I'm gonna put a package together, depending on how many departments and what it is, how many servers do I need to deploy, and I got to understand how the cost of it, right? Because it's going to be a running cost, especially when you're talking about cloud systems, right? It's essentially what it is. So these guys will charge you sometimes per transaction, sometimes per. So you gotta even when you're presenting that to a department or justifying certain costs for why, even subscriptions, right? There are lots of things that you can freaking do. So you have how to manage that and put together a portfolio to present that, right? So there are lots of different things that go into. We can even talk about that stuff too as well. We can set a lot of that stuff up. How to even run how to run Linux on Windows.
Yep.
Just download it.
If that doesn't tell you that let you know that Linux is very important thing, like just so you know, like that's something y'all gotta be thinking about too. So yeah, I think hey shit, we can turn into a little community over here. So yeah,
I guess I'm
your
gonna have
butt
to
up in
give
tech
both
skills.
of you my email then. Crap.
Yeah, go send it to the Duke and Down one because I'm still forming a lot of stuff with it. Because this channel logo name, the logo might change actually. So because it's a jaguar with a third eye, but I'm gonna figure out something else for it. I think
there you go.
but we'll do more of this stuff, guys. Like I appreciate y'all being here, man. Like,
oh man, it's great.
We'll link up again. We'll do another show. We'll talk more tech because like I think this is stuff that's gonna know, and as more people start to come over from the other channel and really get interested in more of this stuff, like you'll start learning at least some basic level skills, right? Some basic level programming, like level 1 type stuff that'll just get you situated in a basic level help desk job, or even above and beyond that, right? So you can get your feet wet, right? So yeah, if you guys need the basics, we'll give you the basics, and then it's up to you to find direction from there, right? So, but if you want more, we can do that too. It don't really matter how you do shit. I got all day to talk to y'all about all this stuff. But like anything else you got to add, Nick Fury, Micah, before we get going?
I would say one thing on, if you are getting into tech, and this is majorly a huge issue that people don't think about early on. You need to learn what you will be good at. Like me, I learned early on that I would probably be better suited for IT, but the issue is, fuck IT. Like I'm the type of guy that likes to sit back, have everything running while I'm dicking my girl down and I'm just making money while doing it. That's the type of guy I am. So it's like, okay, I can take the cheap, not cheap, but the easy guided route of IT, or I could become a developer. So I decided developer, and then I learned I'm actually better suited for a developer because I can make modifications. And as a developer, you're basically looking at someone else's code or how the base code is ran on whatever you're doing, and you're making modifications or you're making something completely different. That's what developers do. You are either making a modification or you're creating something based off a copy that's different. So if you're getting into tech, learn what you're going to be good at. Because trust me, you don't want to be some code monkey. And Apple said, "All right, you need to You need to be 3 days on this project, or all of you getting fired." You don't want that.
Nah.
Sometimes it's not even just getting the like they're like we got like some even basic level developers that can work within Azure too, because they're like certain applications you can deploy within that require a certain level of coding experience that you would need before you deploy that app. So yeah, like some companies need customized applications built to work within, like for instance ServiceNow. We have a lot of different applications that are built to work in conjunction with ServiceNow to get a customized experience for our ticketing system. So it's however you want to build like that. So being a developer like versus even just being a like I mean it was the engineer developer, I would say same difference. But like you can really you'll find the job market is huge. The opportunities are there. Even software engineers being able to like work within like you were saying, like stuff with like C#, C++, Java, all that stuff, right? Going into industries like gaming, right? Being able to do stuff with that, animation, that's a whole different beast. So there's a lot of different things that you guys can get into that could definitely be
one
useful.
trick I will say with industry like gaming, the language is the same, the syntax is customary. That's gonna be a thing you're gonna see.
Yeah,
because a guy told me that like his brother is a CEO for. I actually still got to look up his name, but he said his brother was explaining it, and he showed them the syntax, and I'm like, well, what it looked like? He said, well, I've done C sharp and low level languages before. The syntax was not how the language was supposed to go. I'm like, was it custom? He said, I think it was. I'm like, they made a custom syntax? Fuck.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
That's some like a higher level
different. Yeah, that's
bro.
different.
Like you working with hexes and all that shit. Like, oof.
But these are things that people don't know. Like they coming out these schools and they thinking, I learned C++, I learned Java. I'm gonna get into the gaming industry. The syntax is customary. Good luck, fucker.
Yeah. So I'll piggyback on that. And as I mentioned, I am not a developer. I'm coming from more the IT side and sysadmin background.
Yeah, you fix my problems, I make them.
Exactly. No, and that being said, one of my strengths, and if you noticed earlier, like I don't do much with REST APIs, but I'm good at explaining that stuff. And if you're in IT, especially if you know if you can take something complicated and break it down and explain it to where anybody can, it's easy to understand for the masses, you can go pretty far. The other point I'll bring up, I'll share real quick. Do that. Okay, not that screen, that screen. So I'm going to share real quick. This is a couple of things. You can Google my name, of course. This is my blog I put together. I did this back in, this is just WordPress. I am not a developer. This is just a WordPress site. And I did this to kind of like chronicle things I've been doing in security. But if you're doing an NS lookup or basically looking up the history of the site and domain name, it's been around since 2015. So that, as I said, when you're marketing yourself, you're creating a track record for things you've done. Another thing I mentioned for you developers, set up a GitHub site. You'll notice over here, and I told somebody this that was in security, like you set up a GitHub site. See these little green things right here? This shows commits you've made. And I haven't done that much. Like I said, I'm not a developer. I've made a couple of tools here and there. In fact, one of those was me not knowing anything about Bash, but needing to solve a problem. So I made a tool. I now talk about that tool when I go in an interview and they ask me, what have I done and what kind of stuff do I do and how do I do things and how do I keep up with
it just makes it so easy.
Is that the work down there? I was looking at is that?
Oh no, these are screenshots of the output of what you're going to get from it. Yeah, but I explain all the stuff on the site and
yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah, and then like I've got a YouTube channel and stuff. I don't have any subscribers now, but I'm not. It's not my primary focus. I'll dump information on there once in a while. My point being with all this is you might not have, as you're building experience, start documenting your stuff and putting in this is your portfolio. It's not something formal. You know, it didn't cost me much money to put a site together. And the thing you learn, one of these other things you learn about setting up a site, I didn't code all this. It's just WordPress. However, you learn things like getting a domain name, setting up your hosting, where it's going to host. Like if my hosting isn't in Ukraine, but I know the help that I'm using Namecheap for hosting. A lot of their help desk is in Ukraine, which interesting enough, if you're on Namecheap's help desk, a lot of their names. I don't know if they're using the Facebook API for their user access stuff, but a lot of those people, I literally like Google the person I was talking with, and then found pictures of them at a nightclub in Ukraine.
Damn, like oh baby,
yeah.
About domains.
Yeah,
and if anyone is gonna go into like development,
mm-hmm.
this is a nation that you are gonna reconsider.
Yeah.
Any of you guys know if Brazil is still host friendly?
That's a good question.
I think they are.
I don't know because
Yeah.
it's been years. But when we were getting into things, the Brazilian government was basically like, "Oh, you're American money company or whatever,
Yeah.
and there's your host. Hey, where are you guys? Where's your guys' thing? Brazil,
Yep.
literally the fucking government. Oh, okay. Is it? Yeah, it's good. South American countries, you need these are things that people need to know. Like the
Yep.
manosphere crap, that's stupid. You need to
Yeah,
start
no,
looking
here's
into
the
other
thing.
countries.
I think that stuff, like realistically, they're not really gonna learn much with that manosphere stuff. A lot of
No.
these guys buying
Oh
them
no,
coaches,
but
they're not
stuff
getting too
like
far. That's why I'm
this.
not even
Yeah.
like a lot of. That's why they're easier to just clown, like, and like we'll
Right.
leave the intellectual conversations, or at least the real skill. Because like, listen, even some of the guys in the manosphere, they wouldn't be able to even handle certain conversations that we're talking about
No.
right now. I guarantee you sit Lord Marquand down and ask him, "Wait, what programming language do you know?" Guaranteed, he'd be
Yeah.
like, "Mum's the word." So, like, realistically, we
Yeah,
know. So we leave that side of the space. Let them
Yeah,
do it
there's
because they're not
something.
going to learn. But
Yeah,
for the guys who are actually thinking about well-rounded, grounded, skill-based applications or not jobs or jobs with real world applications. My bad,
Yeah.
I'm skipping my words over. But like, listen, we'll talk about that. We'll even do like some shit. I'll even do a mini boot camp here, bro. So I'm not made for like software engineering, but
Yeah.
like I'm more like role-based
Oh, I
skills
can
that
do
you
that.
guys can like
Mhm.
learn like real quick for like a role you can earn. Maybe you can take your skills from maybe entry level help desk to like, okay, now I'm on my way to working towards maybe even a level 2, level 3, or start working with Azure systems. Like AD is another one you can start working with. So Active
Yeah.
Directory. So like different like where you can fit in within the company's stuff. So like that's what we can start talking about along with like politics and like
Mhm.
real world conspiracies that actually exist and isn't like pretend type shit. But yeah, we'll do more of that. That's what's going to find on this channel. But other than that, guys, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys joining me here today, and I
Yeah,
look forward
appreciate
to
it.
many more.
Yeah,
Appreciate it,
this
Nick.
was good. This
Appreciate it,
was
Micah. So yeah, this is pretty good. AZ, I know. He says for someone in the tech world, Lord Marco and his minions are sure easy to dox. Yeah, they were pretty easy, bro. They were that like Laura Marco was light work. Laura Marco is so light work, it's not even funny. Like the shit his daddy. Yeah, I was thinking about it because I'm an evil guy, but I'm not as evil as that nigga. Because like I would have literally, there's times I've been thinking about it. Should I post this dude's address? Because he like he like bro be going crazy. But I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. But like, yeah, they're very easy, bro. You can like, bro, at this point, like. See, this is what I'm saying. These guys that preach about this stuff, they have the worst OPSEC, bro. They have the worst OPSEC. Like they're horrible at information and they're horrible at security. Like realistically, a lot of these guys they can get got. Like, hey, Lord Marquardt, like listen, bro. Like, this is not even a channel he's gonna be watching, but like if we really wanted to, that little website you got. On my nigga, like just like that. So just be like, just understand, like how like when you start to understand stuff back end, like you start to understand stuff like you really start to see how shit really flows, especially when it comes to online and the internet and shit. Things very interesting, right? You can get around and get places. So but I'm not evil. I'm not evil. I'm not an evil person. So well, I kind of am, right? But I'm not Lord Marquand. But that's a different channel. But like, yeah, he's crazy. This dude is like, he thinks he knows tech, but he doesn't. I think that because he was like, what he said. He said that how the hell am I supposed to show you my source code? And I'm like, bro, I can show you mine right now for a couple projects I'm working on. We can do this on the back end if you want to, right? If you're worried about proprietary data and whatever the fuck, right? I just need to know that it's yours. Like it's a real thing, right? I can tell. I can look at stuff. I've designed stuff myself. I can tell. But like the thing is, guys like that will use flattery. They'll use the not flattery, the fucking word gymnastics that he uses to corral his fanboys back to what do you call it, the distraction that he puts them in, which is hard to even find the words, bro. But he was so easy to get over. It's not even funny. So it's like see, like, that's how I know. Like, listen, y'all, it's the only time I started paying attention to him was after the Kevin Samuels thing, because I never actually really cared about the guy because he's some like another bald guy on YouTube trying to make it. That's all I saw it as. But when I was researching him for that Kevin Samuels video, like it only took me 25 minutes to figure him out. Like it was just like, oh shit. Yeah, that looks like you white labeled it, bruh. And the iBeacon, that's not a real thing. Well, it's a real thing, but it's not a real thing he designed. It's a thing that already existed. So it was so easy to slice that dude apart. It's not even funny. But yeah, it was weird. And he says, Visit says he posts a boxing video of you. He posted one where I was hitting the bag, but that was like after 9 rounds. Like it was just me and bag work. I was like, literally do 9 rounds, 5 minutes per round, bro. Because you have to overtrain. Because like even overtraining for 9 rounds, like at 5 minutes per rounds, that's like I would have to do more if I wanted to last a full 12 rounds in a ring at 3 minutes a round. You understand that, right? So there's a certain kind of training you do in backwards, and I was doing 9. I think I was on like I was like what? I was like on my 7th or 8th one, so I was pretty tired. You notice even during like the swings, I had to like literally wipe my gloves because there was sweat dripping onto my gloves, so my hits were like slipping off the bag. So he showed that video. It looked sloppy, but when you're 7 to 8 rounds in, like a 5-minute workout, it gets pretty fucking heavy. But he posted that video, but there are other ones I have where I'm literally working people. Like I'm working dudes. like I'm even working dudes who end up turning pro and they're getting worked. So it is what it is. Nobody was scared. But he says, yeah, I'm getting familiar with the feeling about his market. Predator me starving for prey. Yeah. Yeah. No one does, Shonen. No one does. I don't look like a tech person. When you go to my department, I don't look like I belong there, which is the crazy thing. Like people I come in, bro. It's crazy when they look at your resume. They're like, huh, that's interesting. Yeah, I get a lot of that, bro. No, I don't look like the kind of guy, but this is what like when you don't fall into a box, right? Growing up, people try to put you in a box. When you have different interests, it's okay to follow that rabbit hole and see where it takes you. And for me, you just start learning different topics, learning different skills, like building a well-rounded knowledge. And you're just you become a very cultured individual. So you look like someone that people wouldn't peg they would know certain things, but actually does, right? You see what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't look like a complete NPC, right? Because most people out here, they're NPCs, but there are ways you can get out of that and become like an actual main character yourself. And people don't really understand that. Like it's like, damn, bro, like you work here? Like, yeah, how the fuck did you do here? Like, what did you do? It's like, I get that a lot, bro. Asa says, I should just get it. I should get into tech just to infect Lord Markwell whole internet network with every virus. Though, man, you can get a cell phone. You can if you're good, if you really get good with Python, you can get into his camera network, especially if the apartment he or the complex he's at does the shared Wi-Fi thing that most complexes, they'll do a shared Wi-Fi. With the if you Python, bro, learning Python can take you far. I'm gonna tell you that right now. There's a reason why you're focusing on Python. Learning Python will take you far. I'm gonna tell you that right now. There are things you can do. Get into his network, get into his email, even you just get into his website and lock that shit down. You can do that. There's a lots of things you can do, bro. Like especially if you learn to write. Now those things can take a long time because it's not like what do you call it? It's that TV show he was Nick Fury was referencing earlier, the hacking TV show, right? They made it seem like everything can happen in an instant. It actually does take time. First, it could take years for someone to slip up, and that's all you need is that one little slip up, that one little gap. Hit that bitch, and then you lock the whole system down. Even take down the whole channel if you wanted to. But people aren't that evil. Like I don't need to play the same games that those people play. It's just we just chill. But yeah, no people. Yeah, no one would peg that. He says, "Will you get back to clowning Rolo?" Yeah, yeah, a lot of those guys for me. When here's how I do my content in the manosphere. Here's how I do my content. When I do my content, people think that I like, oh, I gotta chase the hottest manosphere stories. No, I hand select the stories that have a unique message that can help you guys expand on. Right, that's it. So I'm not out here chasing stories because realistically, that would require me to get invested in these people's lives. I know their egos are so large; they think everybody's paying attention to them. Ain't nobody paying attention to you, bro. Like people got work to do. So, like they like to paint it that way, but like no, I just see like a particular story and I say, okay, that has some lessons here that we can potentially expound on, and we talk about it, and we do stuff with that. But other than that, with Rolo, we're gonna circle back to him. So it all comes in a circle because I don't like to stay on one content creator for a long time because then it just looks like dogpiling, and it's just there's a point in time where it's not funny anymore. Come on, like let's be real people here, okay? You can talk about them, maybe do one or two videos, or maybe three videos in a row if there's a saga. But like realistically, I don't need to be talking about the same person forever. Like I can go, okay, we're gonna talk about him. Now we're gonna talk about this person. Okay, let's talk about Lord Marquardt now. Let's talk about Rolo. Let's go back to Donnie Boy. I forgot about Donnie Boy and them skits with his old girl. So let's talk about him. There's also another guy that we're going to be talking about here soon. I haven't gotten a chance to look at it yet, but he's also one that got exposed to being a cuck. So we gotta talk about him too. So there's a lot of people that we're going to talk about, but I like to keep it different, right? I don't like to just dogpile on people. It gets weird and not fun. I like to keep it fun. Otherwise, it won't be fun doing it. So there are people who are fans of me, like clowning Lord Marquardt, and y'all asking me on what DMs and stuff like that. Like, oh, when you gonna talk about him again? Listen, he's not on the grand scheme of things. He's not that important, but there'll be another video at some point. Don't worry about it. There'll be more videos as long as these guys are in the space. We got a spot, so we cool. We ain't worried, bro. Like literally, it's them. But yeah, he says, yeah, that's yeah. Micah says, he says, find a pocket producer. He says, yeah, it takes time. Okay, what is going on with my hair, bro? He says it takes time. I feel like there's like spider. I don't know if you guys notice. I'm like doing this a lot. It feels like there's like cobwebs around here, bro. Like I just brushed something and there's like cobwebs everywhere. But he's like, yeah, I think it takes years to go from average Joe to creating vulnerabilities for activists. Vulnerabilities, what do you mean? Like activists? Are you talking about like physical activists, like protesters? Or are you talking about like software vulnerabilities? Like what are we talking about? Let me know, Mike up. He says Isaiah Simpson says, got to go finish that Sneakos. Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one. Yeah, no, enjoy that, bro. Oh no, it's my earring. Okay, fuck. Bro, I forgot I was with bro. I gotta end the stream. I'm like, yo, there's something hitting my neck, dog. I'm done. I forgot it was my earring. I was just like, yo, like there's something on my neck, bro. I forgot it was my earring. No, okay, I'm not tripping. My bad, bro. I knew I was feeling something, but that's the shit moving. He said, yeah, go finish the stream, bro. I appreciate you, Isaiah. I appreciate all y'all being here, man. Every single one of y'all in this stream right now. Just in here talking to y'all, like first of all, this is one of the I don't know. Was this the first live? No. No. We've actually had other live streams, but like, yeah, bro, this is like one of the main ones. Like, we're gonna do more of this, guys. I appreciate y'all being here. Real talk. So, we're gonna keep talking about this. We'll do more skill based knowledge stuff too as well. To get you guys at least the basics on Python, the basics on Linux, right? Like, I'll be training right there along with you. I'll be learning right there along with you, so we can get going. Laughing Man says cocaine. No, I'm not on that stuff anymore, bro. I'm not. I quit that a long time ago. I haven't had it in the house. Like, all I do is, like, you got the ganja, but that's as far as I can go with that. But like, I don't have that in the house no more, man. I'm not saying I'm not no longer addicted to it, because like, if I'm around it, then it's probably gonna be a problem. But like, the best way to solve problems is to not to be around them. So I don't associate myself with that stuff. I don't talk to dealers. I don't do any of that stuff like that. But yeah, it's true. It's true. And Shonen says, yeah, dude, that was weird. He says, I fell asleep and woke up to Sneeko saying such shit about models looking like 12-year-old boys. Yeah. When I heard that, I died. I was like, yo, bro, this guy's not, I don't know who this person is, bro. Like, this, bro, the real agenda, bro, is the sus agenda, bro. These sus captains over here that are coming in and whipping these boys into shape. Like, hey, listen, all I know is when I look at some of these red pill guys stuff and the level of anger they have towards women, I just come to a certain level of understanding. Like, I get it now. I understand where that a lot of anger is coming from, because y'all genuinely don't like women, and a lot of y'all kind of like men, bro. Like, don't cap, bro. Like, a lot of y'all kind of like men. Like, he even said in that same stream, like, he wishes there was a grinder for straight dudes. Like, who the fuck says that? A grinder for straight dudes? Like, who's thinking about that? Like, all because you're jealous about the rate of amount of times gay dudes have sex compared to straight guys. Like, if you're a big deal in sexual access, my boy, that's first of all, pretty pathetic. Second of all, like, yeah, bro, of course guys are gonna have more sex with other guys, bro, because they don't have to go with the whole courtship thing, right? Because gay guys, it's like a quick thing, right? They'll like each other, they'll hook up, right? So of course it's easier. I'm sure you're more experienced with that, Sneeko. He's probably not gonna know this channel exists, but that's his prerogative. It's just like, bruh, that's just weird. Like, no one is thinking about dudes. No one is wearing high heels. You shouldn't be. First of all, the manosphere should be against that. Like, why are you supporting people wearing high heels? Like, that's weird, bro. Like, what's wrong with you? Like what? Like, you're wearing what makeovers? Like, who does makeovers? Like, what the fuck? Like, listen, I'll do tea parties with my daughter. That's as far as I go with that. But like, I'm not doing makeovers, bro. I'm not wearing high heels. People who wear those, who put on, if it's not for satire, it's weird. If you're, I guess I'll cancel me now. I guess, but I don't think that that's something people should be doing. So yeah, I think it was very sus him just saying that. It was very, very sus. I don't. Bro, a lot of these guys, bro, I'm telling you, these agendas, okay, like, it opened doors for certain people, bro. He was also, bro, look at that on this channel. Remember when Cuties came out, I actually covered that. I covered that on this channel. Like, you can go scroll down and watch. I've done videos on that, bro. And I've also talked about how, like, there is a real agenda, especially utilizing this LGBTQ movement to sneak in pedophilia, bro. And you see that in mass media, you see that all over the place. Pedophilia is another agenda that's out here, bro. Like, don't get it twisted. A lot of these dudes are on that shit, and y'all need to be careful because they are out there. And I have a suspicion that the manosphere is filled with people like that who are attracted to really, really young girls. Or if you're thinking about Sneeko's case, boys. I just think it's rampant in those areas. So y'all need to be careful. That's another reason why I go at these dudes real fucking hard, bro, because I suspect some of them are on that wavelength. I genuinely suspect that. So, some of them we come at really hard. Some of them, is just whatever. But like, they're out there, boys. There's an agenda out there. Watch it. Watch it, people. Sneeko admitting to liking cuties confirm he's on some pedo shit too. I wouldn't be surprised if, because for a lot of those guys, it's mainly for control. It's a control aspect of it, right? Because they have a tough time dealing with girls in their personal life, and dealing with younger girls is just easier. No experience, and you hold all the cards, right? A lot of guys, you get wake up, man. Like that cute, yo. I fired back when I saw that like when I saw that cutie shit, bro. Like, go see that episode. I forgot which one it is on this channel, but I was going in, bro. I was pissed. I was pissed. You got little girls dancing in suggestive manners, bro. Like, you want to tell me the agenda ain't real? Fuck out of here, bro. That is crazy. That is crazy. And like, anyone who supports that cutie shit, come on, bro. Like, you can't be out here looking at little girls and boys dancing. There's something wrong with you, bro. If you're like, what is so attractive about a teenage girl or a teenage boy? Like, what is so attractive about that? Like, what is so attractive? Not even teenagers. Like, what is so attractive about people who are below preteens? What do these people find out? Like, you guys are fucking sick or some shit, bro. What? No, we can't even say that, because then some of y'all will classify it as mental illness. I think, I don't know. I don't know what to call it, bro. Bro, like, I have, for those of you guys don't know, like, I harbor very, very, very strong opinions on what should be done to people who have those kind of wavelengths. I'm gonna just keep it at that. Like, I don't like to get too crazy sometimes, but like, if I'm gonna really put something out there, I'm gonna tell you, those people who do that, who you start targeting children, okay, you don't play that game. Just don't play that game. Like, actually, realistically, that's the whole reason why I doxed Lord Marquard's dad. Like, I exposed his dad, because when he started exposing that kind of, like, where you're exposing people's children, you're exposing, like, come on, bro. Like, now they gotta go see that. Like, now she's probably getting harassment, bro. Like, come the fuck on. Like, what's wrong with you? You're just gonna put people's kids out there and you're gonna dox them like that? I'm gonna come after you, bro. Like, well, that's what it is, because you're targeting innocent children. The same thing with MLD when he started doing that weird stuff, and there were kids on his phone, and he's taking pictures of kids at Disneyland, and he doesn't have kids. Like, bro, why is a grown ass man at Disneyland and you ain't got kids? I haven't been to Disneyland yet. Like, I'm waiting for my kid to be at a certain age. That way it means something to her, right? And I think by next year, she should be able to understand certain things that's going on, which she already does. But, we're going to set up for next year. And then we'll go for the first time with her, right? And she's been there already with her, moms or whatnot. But I'm talking about first time experience with her dad is going on there. Why? Because I don't have kids. I don't feel the need to go to Disneyland. Why you're not going to catch me at Disneyland, bro? Like, what are we talking about? Like, when my daughter's of age, we going. But other than that, like, I don't have a reason to. Like, she's not. But why is someone like MLD going to Disneyland and he doesn't have kids? You got to ask that question. On top of that, why is he taking pictures of these kids? Like, what? Why you take? What's with these pictures, bro? Like, why are you taking these pictures? That's so sus, bro. Like, leave them kids alone. So you got to ask these questions, bro. You got to ask these questions, bro. Some of these guys, you got to pay attention. They're out here. They're out here, bro. Shane says that I did not get the idea of being sexually aroused by kids. Generally, do not understand the appeal. I don't either. And there's a thing that's actually very scary. It's like, what is so because when I think about it, a kid isn't even able to be capable of being able to do what you want. Like, why would you even be attracted to that? Like, that's crazy, bro. Like, it's so disgusting, bro. Just thinking about this shit. And I'm gonna go out on a limb. I think a lot of this pedo shit happens, I would say, on average, probably more in the alphabet community, more so than the maybe I'm wrong, but I do get a sneaking suspicion that a lot of these alphabet dudes, bro, like, a lot of them low key, because, like, I've here's the thing. In my personal life, I've been around people who swing that way, and the way they talk about, like, minors, especially when it comes to, like, underage boys, like 16, 17, like, the way they graphically talk about them is just like, bro, I don't know who your man's is, but keep me the far. I don't want to go to no gathering, no parties, no nothing where this dude's gonna be around. You're gonna have to warn me where this dude's around, because I felt like I had to pull one of my homies aside, because that was his friend. I was like, yo, hey, if this dude's coming to any functions, bro, do not invite me to this fucking function. I don't want to be anywhere near this dude, bro. Like, I am not comfortable with the way this dude's describing 16-year-old boys, bro. Like, that's weird. Like, at first I was thinking, bro, the reason why it was so weird to me, because the way dude, because he was telling this crazy ass story, because we were sitting there at this table, right? And he was telling this great crazy ass story, and I was just like, he was talking about this one boy, like in this school, and he's like, yeah, he was 16. And the way he was like just talking about it, I don't want to repeat it, but it was just like, I was sitting there like, okay, let me ask, if this was a young girl he was talking about, a lot of people like would be pissed about it, right? And I would have like a knee-jerk reaction, like, yo, what the fuck? Like, yo, like, that's a 16-year-old girl, be careful. But like, I didn't know how to feel, bro, because it was like, it was a 16-year-old boy. Here's a man basically describing this kid in a sexual manner. And although the 16-year-old kid he was talking about was also, he also kind of swing that way too. It was just weird. Cause I'm just like, should I call the cops? Like, should I call the police? Is this something I should call the police on? Or like, is this okay because it's a boy? Like, I was so uncomfortable, bro. I pulled my homie aside. I'm like, yo, I don't ever want to experience this again. Don't ever invite me to any functions this nigga's going to, because like, I'm gonna unfriend you. Like, yo, we not gonna be cool no more, bro. I don't want to be in. And like I'm getting too far into it. I'm getting too far into it. Like, I'm getting too far into it. I don't want to like start exposing people in my personal life, but I'm just saying, there's just some things where I look at it, I'm just like, I don't know. I think the agenda is alive and well in some certain communities, but you talk too far into certain things, you get canceled. So we just leave it at that. I don't want to get the baby treatment. Okay, y'all know the baby. He went up there and said some shit, and they canceled his ass. So I don't want to get the same treatment either. He says, with EDP, it seemed like cope because he couldn't get adult women, even though it's sickening. I can conceptually understand the coping. Yeah, that's another side of pedophilia. Yeah, a lot of these guys, it's a coping thing, right? Because girls their age won't give them the time of day, that's for sure. So they go after the younger girls, and the young girls, a lot of them, they like the idea of an older guy being attracted to them. So you see how that like cycle starts to get crazy, especially younger girls who come from single parent households. That's a big thing, right? They become prey to a lot of these men, right? To Catch a Predator, right, was based off the notion of certain situations like that, right? With Chris Hansen come out, excuse me, sir, well, have a seat right there. Go ahead, have a seat right there, right? When he come out and do his thing, a lot of it was based off that situation. Kids who who are vulnerable to this kind of stuff are usually from single parent households, so we got to be careful. But EDP, that's a sus motherfucker right there. Micah says, "Oh, they worse. Aggressive gay men are well. I have more, but yeah, bro, they're like, these dudes are fucking aggressive, bro. That's why it just makes me. I don't want to say too much, bro. I don't know. It just makes me just weird, bro. I'm just like you're a little too aggressive, bro. I don't want to hear you talk about." Yeah, real business. What are you talking about? What are you watching on TV or YouTube? Bro? Well, I don't know what part you came in on the story, bro. I don't know, but I'm talking about something else that happened at a function that I was at a long time ago. It was weird. Right? I thought it was Predator. I didn't know how to feel, because I'm like, yo, he's talking about a fucking 16-year-old boy in a really sexual weird manner. I get it. The 16-year-old boy was gay. I don't know if he was 16 or 17. Either way, it was still under 18. But I don't know. But the kid was gay. I mean, the kid did swing that way. It was just like he was talking about in the context to his family. I'm not gonna get too detailed just in case they're watching the stream. Or at least a friend is watching the stream, because I know he knows about my channels. But like, it was just the way I was so good. That was the part that was like throwing my head for a loop, because I know for a fact if he was talking about a 16-year-old girl, I would aggressively call it out, because he'd be a straight dude, and I wouldn't have that stigma of, oh, hey, there's a straight guy going after a gay dude, like, right. So I'd be more comfortable going after him. But then here's a situation: we had an alphabet guy who was also talking about another alphabet guy, but sexually, and it was underage, right? So if I snapped at the alphabet guy being a cis male or a straight guy, is that backlash that I'm gonna face? Also, then is the backlash warranted because he's also talking about somebody within the same community, right? And it was just, bro, it was just so many thoughts, bro. I was so uncomfortable. I don't know. I didn't know how to feel, bro. I was weirded out because either way, one thing I didn't know, I felt uncomfortable in that conversation. Everyone else was like smiling and laughing, and I think he's used to having friends in his community who are just cool with him just being outlandish with his statements, especially when it comes to like bro, like he'll even say shit where he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I had sex with that." Like it was like I had sex with that guy, and this guy was my friend, and I also had sex with this guy's friend, and it was just these weird open stories that nobody asked for, but it was just he was just more than willing to share. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? I'm like, yo, who the fuck is this dude, bro? Like just killing the fucking vibe, bro. But I'm sorry, bro. I'm going to it. It was just a bad experience that day. I just never wanted to I don't want to be around that dude. And since then I've never had to be around it or never had to be there. So that's what it is. Laughing Man says, "LL Duke, I want you, and I'm gonna have you. It's an easy way on the highway. Hell yeah, bro. My asshole has never clenched tighter, bro. I'm gonna tell you that right now. It is never clenched tighter, bro. My bunghole was so tight, it was just like, goddamn, bro. I hope you're not looking at me like that, boy. Like, cause you don't catch this hands right here, bro. We not playing, dog. Come on, we not. Hey. This is my booty and it belongs to me. You cannot have my booty. This is my booty. It belongs to me. You cannot have my booty. Y'all remember that when they got up in the prison, right? Mr. Tom Dubois, right? You cannot have my booty. Yeah, nah, bro. Hell nah, bro. Nah, we not playing, bro. Shona says 16 could be a slippery slope, boy or girl. It's legal in some states. I don't know, bro, because I don't know. The world is getting too confusing, bro. I don't know. Way back in the day, listen, back in Nigeria right now, if you're of the Islamic faith, okay, and you believe in the Sharia law, you can legally marry a 13-year-old girl under Sharia law. So I don't know. To me personally, I think I've kind of bought into Western laws where it's like under 18 is pretty much gross, and then it goes on. I've pretty much fully bought into that hook, line, and sinker. But I do recognize that there are states in the United States that are lenient on some of these things. So I don't know. I just think 16 is just too young. Like, what do you know? Yeah, you're sexually mature, biologically speaking, but mentally the maturity isn't there. There's so much more you have to go. And to me, dealing with a 16-year-old is equal to either dealing with someone who you literally you don't know what you're consenting to when you're 16. Yeah, I know you feel like you know everything and you understand the world, but you don't really know shit at 16. Okay, that's when people make mistakes and poor decisions. And I don't think adults should be fully grown. Adults should be dealing with 16-year-olds. I don't think so. I mean, I mean, 18-year-old, yes, like yeah, whatever. Like that's as close as you can get it, whatever, right? 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21, 22, 23. You want to put the Leonardo DiCaprio limit on it and you want to cap it at 25, you're more than welcome to do that too. I just think that if you're looking at 16 years old, that's just too damn young, bro. That's a legal 16-year-old. I mean, I know they're having sex at that age right now, but let them do it with other 16-year-olds or other 15-year-olds. Let them do it amongst each other. I get it. They're of the same. It's no different than saying, okay, one person is drunk and the other person is drunk and they're having sex and there's not a consent issue there. But if you have a fully grown adult man who's 25 and up and he's dealing with a 16-year-old, that's a fucking problem, bro. That's a serious problem because there's some issues there. It's too damn young. It's too young. It's too young. And like I said, it's not. I've seen that shit, and yeah, I've pulled on dudes before. That's one thing in the underground world. Aggressive gay men are to be drawn upon or threatened. I don't know about that, but like I just stay away from them. Because there's some of them, bro. Like they'll and then someone will get touchy too. Like dude was like when we got in the situation, bro. He was just like, hey, let me. This is my booty. It belongs to me. You cannot have my booty. Yeah, I'm crazy, dog. I'm crazy. No, but like, no, for real, bro. Like, I'm just saying, like, nah, bro. Like, stop touching me like that, bro. I didn't consent to that, bro. Like, it's not like, listen, it's not like a, cause you know how a dude, you come up, okay, we should dab it up, was good, bro. Like, or like, if you teasing somebody, you do a light tap on the shoulder or whatnot. But it wasn't any of that. It wasn't like a light tap, cause I'm used to like okay, you're grabbing like that, a light tap. But when you touch and then you caress, bro. That's weird. Like, why'd you caress me like that, dog? Like, 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 what's up, dog? Like, listen, that's good. This, no, don't do this to me, okay? You can tap, you can push, right? You can even poke if you want to. I'm cool with that, but don't tap and slide, bro. This is weird. Or any kind of like rubbing motion, bro. That was like, oh, my booty is mine. I can't even keep a straight face, bro. No, I can't. I can't. I was weird. I would say I was weirded out. It just made me a little uncomfortable. I would like, plus couple that with how aggressive he was with just it was just being open. Like, listen, I know just being open. Yeah, we're in an open world. You can be open about your sexual escapades, but when you out here just talking about, oh yeah, I was sucking this amount of dick and I fucked his friend and that friend and you a dude, I'm just sitting there like, who the fuck? I don't even know this. Like, who the fuck? Who is this dude, bro? Like, why are you talking like that? You don't even know me, my dog. At least you don't know the other guy here. I mean, this your man's over here, but like, bro, like you don't even know us. You that fucking open, bro. That's weird. Bro. That's like, no, don't be touching my arm and caressing it over here talking about how many dicks you suck, nigga. I don't want to hear that shit, bro. That's not the kind of world we live in right now, dog. Like, well, I mean, it is, but like, I don't live in that world. And like, whenever I hear a guy just openly saying stuff like that, I know I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I don't even like this. The weird kind of like things that pop in your head because it's not something that you. It's not saying that you're homophobic or anything like that. It's just not something I'm used to or like just hearing out of. I even get weirded out when girls say, "Oh, I'm sorry." It's like, bitch, what's wrong with you? Like, go ahead, Jesus, let me brush your teeth real quick. Come here, you. Let me you brush your teeth real quick. You kiss your mother with that mouth, right? But like, other than that, right? I don't think it's like a homophobic thing or anything like that. I just think that I'm not comfortable with overly aggressive, alphabet people. If you're overly aggressive, I don't know, bro. It's just not it's not something I'm comfortable with. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not saying like it's just I just prefer not to be in that situation. This just is what it is. Call it what you want. 11 says, "Oh, dude, he smacks you on the butt after a baseball game." I'm like, hey, shit, no slap ass, no slap ass. Okay, y'all watch Key and Peele? That shit was funny. Hey, slap ass, slap ass. No slap ass. No, no slap ass. Nah, bro. Nah, we not doing that. That was Tom DeBoer from the Boondocks, right? My booty is mine. This is my booty. You cannot have my booty. You remember the episode when they went to jail, the Booty Warrior episode? Yeah, when Tom was in jail, that's what I was referencing. Somebody made that reference in the chat, like he's gonna be a booty warrior. Laughing Man made that reference. He's like, "You gonna be a booty warrior? Like, my booty is mine. You cannot have my booty." All right, y'all, man. This has been 3.5 hour stream on the new channel. Shout out to y'all for being here. I know I said we are gonna end it a while ago, but now we really go end it because we did 3 hours on the last stream. So we want to kind of wrap it up here. That's 6 hours in total, bro. We putting in work on the weekend, but I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you guys being here with us, guys. We about to catch you on the next one. The next episode on the Duke the Don channel will be very interesting, okay? Because I was on the Passport Bros channel. I got invited to their smoke show, and apparently somebody had a problem with it. So I don't think the Passport Bros were ready for that smoke. And I didn't really even get to talk to Austin the way I needed to because some idiot on the stream decided to fucking hop in and say, "Oh, why you ruining a good conversation, bro?" And I'm like, "What?" I'm just asking him that he's not a real six-figure earner. Like, what? I thought this was a smoke show, right? But apparently not. So that dude is gonna get exposed on my next show. Yes, motherfucker. Listen, you come in between me, all right, and me trying to get to the truth, you're going to get exposed. It is what the hell it is. So I'm gonna expose your ass, and I'm also expose the entire conversation. Listen, it didn't work out too well for the last guy that hosted a smoke show, okay, and then tried to get rid of me afterwards without getting my question answered, okay, because then lots of people starts getting exposed, okay. It didn't work out for him. It's not gonna work out for any of y'all, okay. Listen, I don't be listen, and the thing that pissed me off the most is like I wasn't even watching his show. Austin Hollerman, the Passport Bro visit, right? I wasn't even watching his show. Some dude, the Adam Hudson dude, came up in my comment section saying he's got a smoke show on right now. So I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and check this out. I go in, I check it out, and I'm like, all right, bro, I got questions, right? And the whole time I let him know I'm in a stream, right? I'm going back and forth, and then eventually he invites me on. So it's like, all right, bro, I guess you ready for the smoke. And then it come to find out when I'm asking, okay, so it's first thing I'm asking questions about mentally, it's fine. But then when I start asking questions about him and his income, all of a sudden, little Passport Bros getting all triggered and they all chime in. Oh, you're ruining the perfectly good conversation. You're just a hater, bro. And it's like, what the fuck? I'm just asking, bro. Prove that you make six figures, right? It was so funny. We're gonna break that down the next show because I thought it was hilarious. But listen, bro, I'm gonna have to show people like, listen, like when you come in between us and the truth, your ass gonna end up like the last nigga that invited me over to a smoke show and then did not basically tried to ignore me, right? You don't do that. You don't do that because when I pull up, because I don't. It's first of all, it's gonna take me some time to even pull up to your show. But if I do end up pulling up, like, and you don't answer my questions, bro, it is what it is. I'm gonna just present what I have to the rest of the world. You just gonna get exposed that way. It is what it is. So that's gonna be next stream. But yeah, Micah says I hated delivering. Okay, I'll look at y'all on next one. Peace.